They just packed them in. I mean, this was a big ass plane, you know, and it was absolutely both coming in.
What airline were you on?
Allegiance.
Yeah. That's how that was.
Yes. Making a lot of money on that.
It was expanding. That airport was expanding quite a bit.
Oh, I know it is. Yeah. I guess they go an extra runway because of the football draft. Going to be this spring.
Okay.
They expect a lot of people flying in.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Manitowoc Public School District Board of Education meeting February 20th, 27th, 2024, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Lori, could you take a roll?
Christopher Abel.
Here.
Luke Hansen.
Here.
Matthew Phipps.
Here.
Stacy Sellner.
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Carrie Trask.
Here.
Tony Vostelica.
Here.
So Ellie Reed.
Okay, and I'd like to make a couple of adjustments to the agenda. We have a lot of people that are coming to speak today. So after the consent agenda, we are going to move up the CISA 10, the facilities assessment plan, so we can hear from them. And then also we're going to move up the enterprise rental car leasing as well, right? So we'll move on to the consent agenda. There's several documents in there. Is there anything anyone would like taken out of that? Biff?
I just have a question on, so I have the right time to speak to the contract and the teacher issue that was brought up at the last meeting. When are you going to have that on the agenda? Just so I have the right time for that.
Yeah, sure. It is on the agenda under central office cost benefit analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. Anything anyone wants taken out of the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Second by Matthew Phipps. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Enjoy the travel to the robotics and to the PLC Work Leadership Conference. Okay, so the next item that we're going to jump to is going to be the our facilities assessment plan, the CSER 10 owners representative agreement. If you guys would like to present.
Okay. We'll try to move through this fairly quick. We did ask to place a handout, I believe, at everybody's seat.
Yeah.
That is just a copy of a PowerPoint that we also have. And we did notice that you've got a rather lengthy agenda, so we were hoping to make this as efficient as we could for the board and everyone that's attending tonight. So with that, I guess I put a couple screens up. With that, I'm going to first introduce myself, John Burgett with CISA 10, project manager. I've been working with the district since October. We've been working through the assessment plan. We've come up with a lot of facility improvement needs, and the timing is such that we thought we should bring forward this additional service contract to see if we might be able to assist with the projects for this summer. So with that, I'm going to let Nate take the next piece.
Sure. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to say? Okay. Okay. Lori, you can go to the next thing. So thanks everyone for having us here again. My name's Nate Carell. I'm also a project manager with CISA 10. I've been working on the audit with John. And just to try to calm any fears of past contracts, we wanted to outline in a few simple pages what our contract entails. And this first slide, contract flexibility, describes how our contract really works. And Mike will be here after we're completed with the audit. Let me step back for a second. After we're completed with the audit, it looks like we're on the docket to present the 21st we'll have a full list of all schools. We're currently done with all the elementary schools. And we've given some of the preliminary information to Mike already. So in our owner's rep contract, we've selected a laundry list of things that we think have potential of both they're urgent, important, sometimes safety issues, but have the potential of getting done this summer. So those are all listed in the contract. Mike would be the one selecting which ones to implement, and our contract is based on our time and then a fee on top of whichever individual projects are selected. Mike would assign specific projects for us to manage or himself to manage. This gives the district a large level of cost control over the projects. And then Mike can also determine the extent of how much we do in each individual projects. For instance, next slide I'll tell a little bit about this, but we may decide to bid out, run the competitive bid process on a certain project for you, but it might be a smaller thing that Mike's guys can just handle and we'd step up. So in wording, here's the scope of work that we may typically do in a project, whether it's small or large, but create the scope of the project, put that in documentation and go out with a public RFP and run what we call the competitive bid process. So we're ensuring that the right bonding requirements are there, all the statute requirements are there. We'd solicit vendors, contractors, try to drum up interest in the individual projects and schedule and hold a site walkthrough and explain the project to the potential bidders. Go through all the Q&A that happened during that process and then put out, if there is needed, an addendum to clarify any questions that have come about through the process. Collect bids, bring bids to the board, have a bid recommendation, and then have the board decide on whether they want to go forward with the project or not. Depending on its potential tiny size, this may be something that Mike's can just decide to go forward or not. And again, this is more of the outline of a larger project, but if we need to, we'd have a project kickoff meeting, just explain our expectations of the contractors, and then go and run the project. So to make that a little more simple and using a real world example, Mike's going to walk through this, or John is going to walk through this later example.
We've got just a couple examples of projects so we can kind of explain how that process would actually work. One of the opportunities that we found in the district is LED lighting is minimal. So there's a huge quality and a huge cost efficiency that can be made with lighting. And typically those projects are not as complicated as some of the structural and bigger issues that we've also identified. So with lighting, for an example, we would publicly bid. And our bid process is such that we will advertise for bids. We provide the documentation for that advertisement. It'll be posted very much like your board meeting notices. We'll also use an online service. So that online service really provides us with an opportunity of not only looking at the bigger contractors interested, but also if there's somebody that's more local and smaller. Nate had alluded to us writing the scope of that project, and we would write the scope as such so that there's more criteria than just cost. And with a lighting project, again, there's several things that you'll want to look at. Tony is probably very well versed in this, but not just the front cost, but what are the components, the specification of the lamp itself or of the fixture itself or of the control. What is the audited energy savings for that equipment? And then lastly, are there grants or other incentives readily available? So doing our evaluation and also in that bid process, we ask for that criteria to be made available. So when we do our evaluation, we're able to take all of those criteria items and use them as part of our recommendation for award. Our recommendation for award will come back to Mike or to the district. They'll have the ultimate decision on whether that project moves forward or not. we can assist with contracting, subcontracts that we can make available as part of that process. And then the award would be made. With the award, we would also assist in executing the contract, and we could also assist in the kickoff meeting for that project. At that point, there's a pretty big break as to who would actually manage that construction project. And the district has an opportunity to do that in-house, or we would provide some additional support for that type of a project. Does that generate any questions? I've got a different kind of a project I'd like to go over next.
What online service do you guys use for posting that stuff?
Building Connected.
Oh, okay. I just questioned.
It's a very common service, and again, if there are local contractors not familiar, part of our process is to bring them up to speed with how to make that notice. And again, we're always open, especially with the competitive market and the lack of contractors we've seen in the last couple of years, making invitations to bidders. So again, if there's contractors we know of or contractors you know of, we'll definitely want to invite those contractors to bid so that we get a pretty wide breadth of competitive in the bid. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I missed something, but it looks like there's a not to exceed of $300,000 on here. Is that right, for the services?
Yeah, that not to exceed number is really an allocation number.
Okay.
So what we identified, and we worked with Angela a little bit to put in a box, what are the dollars available for summer projects this year? And then the number that we came up with is 1.5 million. So beyond that amount, it's not readily available, or it's not practical in the budget for allocating more. We looked at what our maximum cost could be if that entire 1.5 or net project value of 1.2 would be, and that would max out at 300,000. We're only going to get paid for those projects that we're involved in and our time with those projects. So if Mike takes on a larger portion of that project, he'll end up spending those project dollars, but we won't have our support costs on top of those. So it's like an allocation.
Right, yeah, and that's what I was gonna get to is there anywhere in here that details like how much Mike does versus how that changes, or how do we determine that?
We haven't taken that apart and detailed that, but we've given the district a full opportunity to accept or not accept and actually assign us to those supports. And the reason for that, the main reason for that is just the sense of urgency and trying to get some projects out there. We know that we're looking at March at the end of this week, and typically we would have preferred to have those types of bids out as early as last November for looking. So we're trying to speed everything up, not lose a project summer while we're here doing our assessment. But to do that, we would need a contract for that additional consulting work.
I've started looking at these projects and putting my name on versus CISA's name on these contracts, and most of this stuff I could handle, but have to be reasonable also. How much can I take on this summer? I like the idea of their help because, like, breaking down, looking for bids and all of that stuff. They have all the templates for all of this for sending it out. It can be done quickly. That way we can come back with 4 separate bids, 5 different bids or something like that. So, and then we'll determine at that point too, am I going to take over at that point? I can watch the lighting project. I really think I can, at that point, but it all depends how much else I'm going to be digging into. I asked for that $300,000 limit to be put in there. That would be, if I walk out of here and get hit by a bus, and then we don't have anybody in the district to watch all of this. We could get this work done. They could handle it, and that limit would be $300,000. But my guys and that will be digging into a lot of this stuff, and I don't see it getting anywhere near that amount.
So when are we gonna have a clearer picture on that?
Do you have, Tony, on your computer or in front of you, that Appendix A?
I do.
Long list of, okay, so that's the list that Mike's breaking down, and a lot of this is geared towards Jefferson, one of your best conditioned schools that we believe we're not too much at risk of improving, and it still does have a lot of needs. Like I said, March 21st, we'll be complete with our first audit, give us a more clearer, bigger picture. The list is the list because it's what we had at the time. I think at Mike's disposal is how this would go.
Yeah, can we clump some of these things together? I know there's like tuck pointing and stuff like that in 2 schools or 3 schools, et cetera. Because when we put out the playground at Jefferson School for bids, we did it late. And it was way too small, too small of a project to really attract much attention. So if we could bunch some together and make it a bigger project, we might be able to is that reasonable?
It is, it's definitely in our minds. We
Okay.
are getting tight at the point in the calendar year to get summer work done right now, but that would be, what you just explained would be one of my first.
Yeah, we had to put it off for almost a year, just, so.
That would be the big advantage of taking the additional information we have in our assessment and starting soon, sometime this summer, planning for 2025.
Yeah,
And
that's a good idea.
possibly those consolidated type projects. Another, go ahead.
Angela, do you have any ESSER money left, ESSER 3 funds
We will not after this budget.
after this budget? How much should we have that started?
Between all of the,
Yeah.
between ESER 1, 2, CARES, and 3, $12 million between all of the.
It's too bad. I was reading today that a lot of that could have been used for building projects and fixing windows and doors and lighting.
3 million was
Yeah.
approximately 3, it's,
So we're only talking 1.5.
This summer.
and if I can add just a little bit to that very briefly, we have flexibility when we put that into the budget. Let's say they can't get some of the projects done, we can put some into Fund 46 and shift and plan more flexibly for the next summer and take care of some of that if we wish to. And we'll have to be a little agile because they have to go through the bidding process. There are quite a few unknowns right now, but it's a place to start.
Well, the set aside funds, looking forward here for the next couple of summers, is $1.5 to $2 million in that range.
Guys, I just want to be real clear. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this, but I want to say thank you very much for what you've just presented. This is utmost honesty and transparency you're ever going to get. In the previous administration and how things were being done before I was on the board, we would have been giving half of this money to Nexus for no services or no control. We would have no control of any project. Now the administration of this district is now in charge with working in partnership with you guys on your expertise for the bidding process, among many, many other things. So I thank you very much for hanging in there with me to try to make sure that all parties are protected, the taxpayers are protected with this agreement. This agreement is very fair. It gives the purview of the district to make the decisions that they have to make, but it gives us you in your services when we need it. And that's all I've tried to accomplish as of being on board here, is that the district is being good stewards of our money. And even if we would have pushed something through a year ago, we would have been giving twice as much money away.
Right.
So I'm just saying, thank you very much for being honest and transparent with this. 2.5% is very fair for when we need it. When we need certain things done and we don't have the expertise, Mike now has the ability, instead of somebody else that was just farming it all out and getting paid to do nothing, now we have people that are accountable. And if something goes wrong, we can ask Mike because he's in charge, and then it can go to the district supervisor or superintendent to get approval for other things. So I'm just saying, thank you very much for how this is written. This is very fair, and it's clear that we understand that you're trying to say we're gonna try to get 1.5 million of work done this summer, and 2.5% of that is $300,000. So obviously that's what you're allotted. Will you get to that number? I don't know. Probably not, because Mike will probably be doing his job and being able to communicate and handle some of those projects. So we'll only be billing out hourly or for the scope of whatever you are involved in. So thank you very much for this agreement. It's very, very transparent.
Yeah, I think that's all good. I'm surprised there's not a kind of a triage ranking of projects here. For example, Cotto's history room or whatever, at Lincoln has to be bailed out when it rains. I mean, why aren't we doing something immediately to fix the windows on the east side of Lincoln High School?
Yeah, a couple different things come to mind on that. A, we haven't completed our assessment of Lincoln. We've physically audited, we're writing the report, we're on the middle schools and the high school now. B, I'm pretty much convinced that the water infiltration issue at Lincoln is not just bad windows. That there's more to it with masonry and flashing work that needs to be done. I think we really need a design, and we need to pull a window out of the building and make sure that's done right rather than slapping windows. I know in trying to do window projects very recently that we're not going to get any windows this summer anymore on that scale. So that would be a main goal for 25.
I'm just confused about one thing, so if you could explain it to me, I'd appreciate it. Because I hear it's 2%, and then I hear it's $300,000. And 2% of 1.5 million is 30,000.
2.5 is what the contract reads.
Oh, 2.5, well, 2%.
It's 2.5.
Let me finish my sentence now, please. 2% of $1.5 million is $30,000, not $300,000. So at another 0.5%, let's see, so you gotta get a quarter of 30, so I'm just trying to understand where the difference is.
Our contract is T&M, so our profit or our keeping the lights on fee is that if we actually did 1.5 million or 1.2 of projects, I don't have a calculator, but you said it's $30,000. That sounds right. That's our actual fee. We base most of our fees are our hours. We track our time, and that's what it is.
Okay, so that's the hours.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, and the 300,000 is the max.
That's
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what I'm trying to stay aware of, trying to keep their hours down as much as possible.
Right.
Because that's the bulk of their invoice is going to be hourly.
And I get that you have plenty to do over the summer.
Yeah.
I completely get it.
Many summers. Many summers.
Not too bad.
And Mike actually brought this up with me as something I wanted to say when John was giving his lighting example. Even if we are given management responsibility of a project, oftentimes the job for the day on a small project is go let this guy in and tell him what he's got to do. If I'm an hour away, that would be a 3-hour trip. If it's something like that, even if we're responsible for management and I can call Mike and have him take care of something like that, we'll be doing that. So much more efficient.
So it sounds like 300,000 is really kind of a worst case scenario, and no one really thinks we're gonna hit that number if we do this, which is what matters. Yeah. And we should have a better idea of it by the end of March.
Well, so what they're saying is up to the discretion of the administration, and the board can vote on certain things that they want to do. They're just asking for an agreement so they can move forward in some sort of format. So really, it's up to the administration team and the executive team to present to the board or to Mike and them to make a decision where we want to go with that $1.5 million projection of funds for the district. Before, it was not like that at all. Now it'll be up to the district to make the decision where they want to go.
Exactly.
So it's completely in our favor.
So we would be looking for a motion and a second to approve this agreement, and the projects that are listed here in Appendix A, are those the ones that we are definitely going to do this summer?
Those are the ones we're going to target this summer, yes. In a month from now, when you get the full report, when these guys present it, you may have a different opinion on that when you mention windows or something like that.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to bring this list up when we know how much there is.
So this gets us started with 1.5 of summer projects. What those may be are still yet to be determined.
Yes.
Okay.
But more than likely, this will be the list. That's what I'm focusing on, and to come up with a list saying these are Mike projects and these are CISA projects.
I'm moving forward to it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just-
Angela?
I do want to mention that we have sent this contract to our attorney and received the red line back just today. Only minor changes that we've already reviewed. CISA 10 doesn't see any problems with them. No amendments to any of the pricing or anything like that, of course. So just want to share that. I'm happy to share the red line version with the board. I can work with Jim and so just that's, wanted to make sure we mentioned
It's
that.
tightening up a little bit more.
You didn't want to do a retainer at 10%. All right,
No, we don't.
motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. And then the second item on our agenda is we're gonna have Angela present on the enterprise rental contract.
You didn't do a spectacular job. Okay.
We're spending money on
Okay.
Matt Jaskowiak, with us from Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
And we're bringing a proposal together, or to the board, just that would address and plan more intentionally for replacement of our vehicles. Our fleet of vehicles right now, as it stands, is in pretty poor condition. You know, some very rusted out vans, you know, and, you know, some of the age of the vehicles and stuff is included in the information that's included in board book. So just wanted to, you know, say that this would be a great benefit for the district to just make just a better financial investment in our vehicles. The plan is, you know, every 2 to 3 years, we would, you know, exchange vehicles and then you use your profit from that to reinvest in it. And it just really works out better overall. With the number of vehicles we have, we really don't have like a capital set aside every year that we're buying a new vehicle and a plan. And so as we've looked at all parts of the budget and trying to be more intentional with our planning, this is one way to really tighten up our vehicle fleet. And we're finding that many organizations, City of Manitowoc, many districts in the state, CISA 10 also leases through Enterprise. So just wanted to bring this forward to the board, so.
Yep. Thank you for the time tonight. I'll try to keep it really brief, answer any questions. So in the book that Angela gave you guys, there's some good reading material, just high level. So I'll kind of explain the situation that I saw from the data and analytics that was given to me to assess. To give a quick intro though, I've been working for Enterprise in our fleet management division. It's the same company as Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We're a family-owned business. We're privately held. We're owned by the Taylor family. So Jack Taylor was our founder back in World War II. He served on the USS Enterprise. That's how Enterprise got their name, from his World War II days. So still family-owned today. Chrissy Taylor is the CEO of Enterprise Mobility. And that won't change. So family-owned business, we specialize in partnering with organizations in the government and non-government sector. We help them optimize their fleet of vehicles or their fleet program to just run at the most optimal cost per mile, plain and simple. Based around analytics, market trends, assume that we're like a financial advisor, but just in the fleet business. So City of Manitowoc, Sheboygan School District, Kenosha Unified, Oshkosh Area School District, Appleton School District, City of Green Bay, City of Two Rivers. We have 55 government clients. CISA 10 is one of them that operate under our fleet management services. It's a cradle to grave approach. So fleet planning with leaderships, department heads, understanding business trends, when vehicle order banks open, when they close to build new vehicles, how to sell vehicles, when to sell them. And so from cradle to grave, we help with the entire process. So for a quick example, to get more detail, if Mike needs a cargo van with a bin package or a ladder rack, we actually help logistically set that all up with vendors that he chooses to want to work with. We can actually cap that cost into the lease program, so there's not a bunch of capital outlay for it. And we deliver that vehicle turnkey, ready to go. So that's kind of like a high level intro of who we are, where we come from. We are the world's largest mobility company. If you put us on the global map, we just happen to be in just about every little community around the country as well. So when looking at the Manitowoc Public Schools fleet, there's about 42% of your light medium duty vehicles that are 10 years or older. To kind of put that into context, the vehicles don't drive too many miles per year, but there's a lot of standard safety features that are not part of those vehicles' lives right now. They're not necessarily fuel efficient as newer vehicle technology is. And by far the resale value of a 10-year-old vehicle versus a 2, 3, or 4 or 5 is not as solid or not as great. 12.8 years is the current average age of the fleet. So that's just taking the model year composition and breaking it down. And it takes the school district about 10 to 15 years to cycle through all 21 vehicles. So that's just looking at historical buying trends, how many you guys acquire per year and how many vehicles you have in total. So that's quite a range because sometimes it's a lot and sometimes it's none at all. So the moral of the story is the older vehicles will have higher fuel costs, higher maintenance costs. In Mike's world, it's downtime, it's safety and compliance, it's employee morale, it's image, and so on. So what we've found in the government model and found success, a lot of success in the school district world, is buy low, sell high. So we'll replace your old vehicles, we'll lease you new ones. They're leased to own, they're not dealership leases. So you guys retain, the taxpayers retain all equity value in those vehicles. So we would buy low, sell high, and in between we would fund the program for you as far as leasing them. So you make monthly payments for each of the vehicles. You're paying to own them. So as you pay them down, just like a mortgage, you would pay to own that asset. Once we sell that vehicle, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 6, or 7 years of age, as long as the finance, we pay it to zero, and then we send the gains back to the school district. What other school districts do is they actually roll those gains into the new vehicle that needs to come in and replace it. So it pays down that new asset coming in. When you look at it, a younger fleet of vehicles will cost less on maintenance costs, better fuel economy, less downtime, better safety compliance, employee morale, recruiting, retention, the list can kind of go on. And it's far more effective. And then we have some situations in some schools that we're selling vehicles in 1 to 2 years of age for the same amount of money or more than what it delivered for a year or two ago. Because the government model is quite aggressive compared to a non-government client because of the buying power the government entity has. When you mix that with the enterprise world and selling vehicles, the way we can sell vehicles, it's a great recipe and it allows the taxpayers to have the school district operate safer, younger vehicles and the staff get to drive newer, safer equipment and to perform their duties while it's not spending a ton more or saving a bunch of money. You just get kind of the benefit of both worlds.
Watching. How about Matt first?
I just want to hear from Angela and Mike as opposed to what we're dealing with now with maintenance costs and the financial aspect of it. What I gotta defer to what you guys think.
When we looked at the trends over the last 10 years, it ended up being about an average of $40,000 to $50,000 a year on the maintenance costs. And sometimes it included a purchase, sometimes it didn't. So again, we, haven't been on a steady cycle of replacing that. So, we look at the overall costs, we partner with the city in buying our fuel, but that $40,000, $50,000 is the pure maintenance cost. And we also had someone we have a mechanic in-house now, but, just looking at overall changes, we can invest that time of that employee into doing other work in the district and have like this routine maintenance done in our community as a part of the lease program. And it's a better, all efficient use of funds that we're finding.
We've got 3 of them right now there's holes inside the van and that the electrical, the heating, and then the delivery vehicle. So I went to Angela and saying, we need to replace these things right now. Well, then that dollar amount gets up there. That's how this whole discussion started. I said, how do I plan every year for replacement? And then again, that's where the conversation came in here. So, but we've got a couple of them. I wish I was kidding with the guys today. I wish they would have parked our 2 worst ones right by the front door here. But,
I already used my time to go ahead.
Okay. Tony, did you have a question?
So, yeah, I'm just trying to understand the comparison between what we're doing now and what it's going to look like if we do this from a cash flow perspective. And I see a lot of numbers on that first page. is it fair to say that everything costs us now 175 to 180,000 per year? Or does that not include the maintenance?
When you think about the staffing costs for the person who's doing the bulk of the maintenance work on the vehicles and what we're putting into maintenance costs, you come very, very close. And then also that estimate that we have in there is very conservative. We could end up saving more and it could come down even more within that.
There's a few things that go into the bucket. I mean, obviously, you guys do buy new vehicles at some point. You fill them up and you fix them, and you have overhead costs that go into it. By outsourcing your light duty maintenance to a taxpayer in the community, that's obviously a good thing for the community, but it allows less downtime. Routine maintenance is quick in and out. Typical vehicles in government that are 5 years or less are just doing typical oil changes and tire rotations. We're not dealing with out of warranty things, stuff that takes vehicles off the road. We're not dealing with holes in the bottom of vehicles or electrical issues. If there is, it's taken care of. So when you look at the historical trend of the school district and on a conservative 5-year approach on what we see and what we can accomplish, we're pretty much almost at a break even of what you're currently spending to run a 5-year-old fleet with Enterprise versus your 10 to 15-year-old fleet today.
So if I'm hearing you right, we could get newer equipment, save time, and it's gonna be cost neutral.
It most likely would be very close to cost neutral and conservatively, and we'll probably see it dip down a little bit just because of the resale market, depending on how we consult and navigate through the time. So for example, obviously, MPSD was not a client of Enterprise through the last 3 years, but Kenosha Unified School District has been a client for the last 13 years. So we were ordering cargo vans and pickup trucks for their district, and we were selling them at about a year and a half of age with 5,000-6,000 miles on them for about $15,000 more through our sales channels to buyers than what they paid for it a year and a half ago. So they made about 10 to 15 grand a vehicle in cash and revenue by being smart and open to change and ideas, right? So understanding the market, we do this every single day of the week. Supporting the decision makers here, which you guys would always make the final decision in any plan that we would consult on. Buying low, selling high, lowering your operating cost to minimal dollars, improving fuel efficiency, and then the intangibles just come into play. Employee morale, downtime, which is a soft dollar cost that I can't calculate, and overall just performance of the program.
Can you help me understand, I thought I saw a number, I wrote down 283,000, like net gain. I think it was on slide, let's see this. Sorry, I have a hard time on the small screen. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
Tony,
The $283,000 number in the green.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's equity that the school district would have rights to. So if you think of a mortgage, let's just say a $10,000 house, which is obviously not the case. $10,000 house, you finance it down to zero with the bank, but before you're financing it to zero, we sell it at $5,000. You owe $5,000 to the bank. We sell it for 12, right? So you started at 10. We finance it down to 5. You still owe the bank $5,000, but you sold it for 12. We're going to take the 12, pay the 5 to 0, so we can walk away from the house. So we go to the new one, and then you have your pool of equity. That's the best way in my 12 years that I can explain what the equity piece is related to the mortgage piece. You take that liquid cash, and you can either take it as a check form and apply it however you would like. You can take it as a credit invoice, or what most of our government clients do is they apply it to the new vehicle that needs to come in, because it'll help pay down the average outstanding balance. And then finance, the average outstanding balance will go down as you put money down. Just like if you were to trade in your vehicle, you would roll the gains into the new vehicle, pays it down, you pay less in taxes. You would pay less in taxes, but you don't pay taxes, you would pay less in interest. So that's why the government entities roll gains all the time, so they pay the least amount of interest costs in the finance.
Yeah, does Enterprise do hybrid or electric cars?
Yes,
What's the smallest fleet that you have right now?
20.
That's the smallest contract you have?
Yeah, we start at 20 vehicles or more. So as small as 20, which you guys are at 21, so you fit the bill. As large as Franklin Energy, which isn't too far in this neck of the woods, they're like a 700-800 car account. So if you, that's a great point. If you take that concept of customer service, technology, dedication to our clients, Manitowoc Public Schools is simply getting the same resources that we give a 800 car account here in Wisconsin as you would with a 21 car account. And the city's doing this too. There are maybe 50 to 60 cars in total that are under our program today, the city of Manitowoc themselves.
I see the list.
Other questions?
What's the risk
Go ahead,
that,
can that
No,
man speak first?
No, I was just gonna say, I see the list and it's extensive, including our city and tons of other school districts.
Okay, Tony?
is there any risk that we would do this and end up in a worse position than not doing it?
Not necessarily, because if we were to replace, say for example, we replaced all 21 vehicles today with 21 brand new ones, we would sell your old assets, take that cash value and apply it to the new vehicles coming in. What happens is if you take, let's just say easy numbers, a $50,000 van, and you had $10,000 of equity per vehicle, let's just say. That's a $50,000 van, plus there's government discounts, plus a $10,000 pay down, and then you're gonna depreciate that over time. You guys drive like 3,000 to 4,000 miles per year. An average citizen drives 13 to 15,000 miles per year. So not only do you buy better than the average citizen, you drive 2/3 less amount of miles. So when you sell a vehicle at year or 2 years old in a commercial setup, which is most of these vehicles, like a cargo van pickup truck, those are rare unicorns. We sell to over 200 different unique buyers across the state of Wisconsin, independent or franchise dealers. So we sell directly to the dealers that some of these taxpayers today may have bought a used vehicle from, and that's how they supply their inventories from our off-leased and rental vehicles.
I also just want to mention quickly, if we were to really be, on a good replacement cycle of vehicles, I mean, I think during my 3 years in the district, we've bought one truck, I want to say, and then the 2 box trucks for food service maybe a year or so before I arrived. We would be spending close to $100,000 additional each year, and when you look at, and that's not included in what we're spending right now for maintenance. So when you look at that in the scope of what the contract would be every year, we really will be doing well.
Yeah, so we're gonna come out ahead, right? I mean, there's,
More than likely, yes.
There is a human, there is a human impact to this too, for the employees of the district. So we gotta kind of, I would like to ask Mike or superintendent, have we asked our staff how they're doing, how things are working out? If they feel that they are meeting the needs of the district, or are they not being able to keep up with services on the vehicles we have now? So that's the only thing that's kind of very important to me, because this affects people.
They're keeping up. We're doing a good job with everything. There's more and more repairs. The number 2 bad vehicle, the guys are telling me that they're looking at parking it outside now because it's leaking so much oil, and it's a rear end and all that. So we need to replace it. That was one of the first questions that came to me when I took this job about 10 months ago. Can we work on vehicles as far as replacing and getting something decent here? So
on that point, my clients, the school districts, and I named 5 or 6 of them, and you can see them, they replace vehicles based on what they're worth at any point of their life. They never replace them on maintenance costs or repairs. In theory, you may have a vehicle that gets 1 oil change in its life being here. That's the whole concept. That's a perfect way to explain the operational benefit of that conversation that situation he just explained versus a fleet with Enterprise and funded through us, and we help you from cradle to grave, buying and selling and all the stuff in between. You replace vehicles based on us consulting with decision makers that make executive decisions here based on what the value of your fleet is worth today versus tomorrow. And you take that math and you plug it into a cost going forward model to see, hey, if we replace this cargo van today at 2 years old and with a new one, what does our cost look like going forward versus do we hold it another 12 months? And we can predict and we know what vehicles or values are worth today, and we can do it pretty solid out 12 months from now. And that's how Kenosha Unified and the Sheboygans and the Oshkoshes of the world replace their vehicles, is by utilizing the vehicle's value to help support their cause. Not based on, well, this vehicle is really run down and it's old and it's rusted out. It's never the case.
Okay, so I'd be looking for a motion in a second to approve this vehicle, enterprise vehicle leasing, if anyone would so move. Chris?
So moved.
Second?
Also,
Second by Carrie Trask. Any further discussion?
I just have a question before
Yes,
we vote. Contract length. How long do we sign up for this?
It's a great question. So there is zero commitment to working with us. If you sign a vehicle order quote to order a vehicle, you're just financially responsible to pay the book value of the finance. Just like if you were to go buy your house, you're financially responsible to pay the payment of that house. If not, obviously we know that position. Let's just say, for example, though, 2 years into that agreement or to that lease, you would like to find a way out. You can stop working with us directly altogether and keep paying enterprises like we're just essentially the bank still. Or you can buy out that vehicle for the remaining book value, not the fair market value, the book value of the finance. And then we would release a title back to you and then away you go. So that's the beauty of our partnership. I'm not going to put CISA 10 on the spot, but even them, they could fire us at any day of the week. Please don't. And away we would go. But that's what we've built on as a family business is integrity, results. And if you called Pat Finnemore down at KUSD, Greg Harches at Appleton, or Mark Belkey over at Sheboygan, just very recent. So maybe don't call Mark yet, but they would say that that's the case. So good scenario.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Just my comments to be, because your minimum is 20 units and 20 vehicles, and we're at 21, I'm kind of a little hesitant, because this is kind of like all in or all
Just
out.
potential. Like I only work with organizations that have a potential of 21 vehicles. If you only had 15, I wouldn't have called.
That's what I'm trying to say for the,
Just have to have a fleet of 21 for me to.
so what I'm saying as a board member, that it's kind of like we're jumping all in. There's not like a toe in the water here. This is replacing all 21 vehicles instead of just doing, say 5 of them with this enterprise contract. We'd be doing all of them. So that just kind of, it's a 21, yeah.
You essentially, if you replace them all now, your vehicles are valued a lot more right now than they are if you do it over time. So your average cost per vehicle is far less to do it right now. So the city of Sheboygan is a really good example. They have 65 vehicles in total in their municipality. They replaced every single one of them at one time with us because it was more cost effective when I laid out 4 or 5 different plans to show it. It's just you're utilizing your vehicles today to pay the new vehicles down. And then it already puts you in an equity position. So years 2, 3, 4, you got a lot more equity to play with when we sell them to replace for round 2. And then you're immediately getting to your low operating costs, your better downtime, better employee morale, all the intangibles that go with it. And then when you look at the finances, even to do it, it's almost a break even conservatively if you just kept everything for 5 years from day one. So, yeah.
I agree with everything you say. However, used cars are the highest they've ever been right now. That's why he's saying that, which is completely true. However, new cars are most they've ever been as well. So he's just kind of saying, hey, you can get the most bang for your buck right now, hypothetically. Even if you didn't need to replace them, you can sell them for the highest value right now. And you're not gonna, it feels good that you sell them high, but you're still gonna be buying new vehicles at the utmost highest you've ever paid for them as well. So it's kind of,
We're funding it, so you're paying monthly, so you don't have to outlay a $45,000 check for a $45,000 van. And obviously, there's a cost to that. But yeah,
what is the cost structure for your fine? Because
yeah, I mean, we're a bank, so in a
yeah,
way,
so
right?
what
So
do you do, just 1.5% of the total cost of the?
no, we use
What is it?
a 3-year T-bill to assess our interest rate component. That's just what we use typically. But where we, based on the comment before about the high market of selling vehicles and buying vehicles, it's kind of relative. So if a vehicle cost goes up, the resale value is going to go up. If the resale market kind of dips, well, the purchase price of the vehicle dips. So government accounts are typically bulletproof when it comes to, they're like recession proof in a way. Because if the market's really good, guess what? Well, Kenosha Unified School District didn't get a whole lot of incentives on their vehicles, but they sold them for a boatload of money more than they typically would. And then if it's a slower market, we're getting a ton of money off the front end of the vehicle because they want to push inventory. And then the market's still somewhat bulletproof for government accounts because you have such little mileage on these vehicles at 3 or 4 years of age.
I agree as well what you said. However, the district still has the ability to get government pricing on units as well. So we could independently do that. You're saying you're providing that service for us. So thank you for we understand that you're providing that service, but the district can still do all the government benefits on new vehicles as well.
Well, we procure vehicles through the same purchase power that any government entity has in the United States. So
Yep. So we can buy them what I'm trying to say is we get the school district gets the incentives no different than enterprise because we're a government entity as well.
correct.
And
So I just want to be clear so everybody understands that. So
we do stay in the driver's seat as far as which vehicles we move on, you know, so it's not like we, you know, say we're gonna go into this and then they're in total control. We're still in the driver's seat of, so we maintain that. Yeah, so I'm sorry. Going?
Slide 5, depreciation, it's listed at $99,750. Can you help me understand that, please? Like, what specifically is that referring to?
Same page there.
Page 5.
It's at the top in green. Total depreciation.
Can you give a little more specifics on where you're looking, please?
Yeah, I'm just curious, I mean, it looks to me like you're factoring that into some of the projections, and I was just trying to understand where that fits in. You know, I'm assuming it's related to vehicle depreciation and the value of the vehicles going down.
Are you able to identify just some keywords that you're looking at so I can put my eyes on it?
Yeah, I'm looking at total depreciation at the top highlighted in green, $99,750. And it's on slide 5. It's like right under, if you look at total fleet size 21, like right below that. And I'm just trying to understand it. That's what I assume it was, but I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't.
Yep, I'm with you. It shows me on page 4, so that's why.
Yeah.
Wrong page.
Docs, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so just based on the vehicle size and how many vehicles on average over the last how many years, 10 years, the school district would still on average acquire some vehicles per year plus upfit, and that's what that number would be pertaining to. So on a 10-year life cycle divided by 21 vehicles divided by 10, that gives you a rough idea of how many vehicles you can still acquire per year. That's where that number's coming from.
So is that just the value of the
That's the
vehicles?
cost that the school district is technically paying per year to acquire new vehicles.
Okay, right now.
And upfit, yep.
Gotcha.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
let's see.
Me and Matthew Phipps. Okay, next item, thank you very much.
sure, thank you.
The next item that we are going to go to, we're gonna go back to the agenda. And we have some guests here as well to speak. We're gonna go to the district priority goals, although of course Jim is just stepped out for a second.
Oh, yeah.
What's that? Online registration. Okay, that'd be great. We're gonna go to the online registration update, letter D. Go ahead, Jamie.
So, I put this on the agenda or asked for it to be put on the agenda because I wanted to update you on some incredible work that has been done by Jody Pop, who is our registrar, Jessica Cree. And what has happened, it started on Monday, we have switched to online registration, which is a leap forward for the district. We started last year with a small pilot project when it came to registration of the K-4 program, worked out a few bugs, and now we are expanding that to the entire district. So our parents will be able to access registration online. We have some problem solving that we had to overcome. with birth certificates, things like that. They worked through it. We also have the ability to support someone if they're not able to access registration online, continue to come. So just wanted you to know that's out there. It started on Monday.
Excellent, thank you. Mike,
We can do calendar stuff.
I was gonna say, let's do calendar stuff.
All right, 6A first.
Yes.
Proposed calendar amendments. Remember last 2 weeks ago, I talked about the kindergarten piece for the elementary, that they didn't want that transition time. And then the middle school conferences were on the same day, and the bilingual interpreter said we aren't gonna be able to service the families like we should, so we separated them. And then the request was for MLK Day to be a total school day, not in session, and that is the case now. So I think we're finally good to go.
Okay, so I would look for a motion, a second to approve the amendments. So moved by Chris, second by Biff. Any discussion about the amendments to the calendar?
Just thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for
Yep.
all your work on that.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. You want to do your last one, Mike?
Sure. It's 7A, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
7-day inclement weather days.
Yes. So this year, as my memo says, we had 2 inclement weather days, Tuesday, January 9th and Friday, January 12th. And on our current calendar, we have 1 makeup day scheduled, I believe it's for April 29th.
Yeah.
And historically in this district is what I'm being told, is that if you have more than one, that the superintendent and the Board of Education will discuss the options. So as I see it, there are 3 viable options for the second day, the inclement weather day that we missed the second day. One option is, of course, is to have school in session. Students report, all staff reports. That would be April 26th, that Friday. Another option would be to have students and staff not make up the inclement weather day. And we've looked, Angela and I have examined the hours of instruction. And as I said here, there's ample extra hours of instruction per the DPI regs to allow this. But this would be a no student, no staff workday. And as you see at the bottom, at the elementary level, we have 12 instructional days beyond the DPI requirement, middle school 4, and high school 8. And then the third option would be is to have a professional development day. Students aren't in session, but the staff, the teachers report, and we have a PD day. So as I see it, those are our 3 options for that second day, and hopefully we will not have a third.
Yeah. Never know.
Right?
Yeah.
So is there a recommendation from administration on which one of these options that they like best?
2, right? Yeah, I'm gonna move for 2. I'll make a motion that we.
She was looking to see what they thought.
I don't have a recommendation.
What about teaching curriculum instruction or?
Like grabbing professional development days, but we have done a lot of learning this year and we've asked a lot of our folks. So
Do we have teachers in the audience? Somebody want to tell us? Should we take the day off?
Okay, so Carrie, you wanted to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that
Yeah.
students and staff do not make up.
I'll second that.
Okay, and second by Spalding. Okay, any discussion? Yes, Chris?
Mike, I have a question. My understanding is, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is the state's view is you can have up to 4 weather-related cancellation days a year with 0 makeups. Is that correct or incorrect?
That would be news to me, Chris. I'm not aware of that.
Okay,
Um,
because I see that we have
ample-
12
Right.
days worth of
Yeah.
hours in elementary, 4, and we have 8 at the high school. I don't understand why we're making up either of them. That's my view of it.
Yeah, we could do that. That's not the motion.
Yeah.
Unless you want to amend it.
I guess what I would say about number one is my understanding in this district that historically has been you make up the one, anything above and beyond the one is discussed. So that's what I know, Chris. You know.
I'm well aware of the history of the district, so don't worry. I go way back to when you got to a third day did you start to discuss it.
Oh, yeah.
You always made a.
Oh, really?
All right, well, we got a motion.
And right now, we have to report on a certain calendar report, which is where we were getting these calculations.
Okay,
So
all
that's
right.
what's moved
Oh,
to in
yeah,
more recent
that's a
years.
good point.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of having that not make up there, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Chris says no?
Yep.
Okay.
Say make up the number.
Okay, thanks, Mike, appreciate it. Okay, so we are gonna move back to our under 5 report of the superintendent, letter B, our district priority goals. Yeah.
Yeah, if we could switch the order there and go with C first in
Sure.
terms of having some of our site conference people sign
So the
up.
people that are here for that to talk about the conference.
Washington go first, just because my solutions coordinator has to go pick up her daughter.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. What did I just say? Washington? I used to be at Washington. I do love Washington. The Jefferson coordinator, she's gotta go pick up her daughter. That's what she was.
I thought it was nice you were asking for Washington. It's
Do
really.
you guys wanna sit?
So giving.
We get to stand?
We're good to stand. It's been sitting.
Great, so you guys are here to talk about the conference that you just attended in Nashville. Okay, great, thanks. And maybe just state your name, where you are, and what your position is, just so everybody knows. Thanks.
All right. I am Lisa Delsman. This is Tiffany Schley, Solutions Coordinator. I'm gonna let her go first.
Okay, thanks. I am speaking for the elementary solution coordinators. There were 3 of us, and then also the 4K solution coordinator that went over to Nashville. So a lot of the kind of overall thing that we really got from that conference was clarity on how to use those solution teams and how to run them, especially at the elementary level. Whenever they went over to Baltimore, unfortunately, the person that was supposed to do the training got hit by a car. And so they missed out on a really important training at Baltimore that we got to get at this at this conference in Nashville. So it was really neat to get some clarity there about how those run at the elementary level. And then also one thing that is kind of across the board we're getting through is looking at how intervention teams run at the elementary level. And so we got a lot of good clarity. We got a lot of times with coaches that went over, because there were numerous of us that went to each of the different sessions. We got some of the coaches that came over to our table and got to talk us through specific situations. So it was really neat, especially with the intervention team and stuff, to ask those specific questions like, this is how we're trying to do it at school. How do we get through this hurdle and stuff like that? So it was neat to be able to talk through some of those specifics with some of the coaches. Then some of the things that were also neat to hear was sometimes we were trying to make it more of a system whenever we're putting the solution teams into place. And it was neat to hear consistently them remind us that we're just working with the systems that are already in place, the great work that we've been doing for many, many years. What we're doing with the solution teams is that we're just trying to take that and make it a structure around the systems that we already have in place. And so that might look different school to school based on the needs of each school. So again, it was neat to sit next to somebody else that's running a different system and not feel like we're doing it wrong. It's just the structure that we're putting into place.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany.
So Jefferson, we'd just like to thank you. First, thank you for the leadership and like the opportunity for us to go and bring back valuable information. The 3 of us, my facilitator Kabir, met and distributed ourselves into different groups to learn and bring that back and bring it back right away. So one of the things that we learned throughout all of our sessions, talking to our coaches that were there, but also talking to other schools that are there year 10, year 15, is that we are significantly farther in year 1, not even like at the halfway point than they were in year 2 and 3. I was sitting with some Hawaii principals, and she was in year 2 and 3, and she was blown away at the things that we've already done. So that was bringing that back to our staff at Jefferson. It just boosted their morale. It was huge. I went through a leadership process to take our building from our routine to our refined state, and they gave us how to do that, and I gave it to my facilitator, Jen Hartman, and she implemented that, tonight with our wings at the wings component meeting, and already is moving our teachers forward, that's pretty awesome. My facilitator and I distributed ourselves into coaching sessions, and we just learned more of that refined process of coaching through the routines, the structures of SFA, but also the cooperative learning, which is resulting in our teachers feeling how important our facilitator is in our building. I asked our teachers what they wanted me to share from our learning, and they said overall I have like 5 emails of the value of our facilitators, and all of our facilitators, everything they learned, brought it back immediately and is giving it to our teachers in their biweekly component meetings, supporting their learning through observations and coaching, so that the teachers can deliver the best quality instruction to our students that they can. Our kinder team kind of felt like, we're kind of being missed out on some things. So my facilitator went to a whole kinder component meeting, got some things brought back. She met with them today to move them forward. They're excited about those structures in place and what they're learning through the kinder process, which is an all day through their students are learning. I mean, it's so impressive when you go into a kindergarten room and they're writing and they're reading and they're in kindergarten. It is phenomenal. And then our wings teachers, just through their learning, they're super excited to see what their students are learning through the ability to ask questions, restate their questions into elaborate answers, and they're working together in teams that then my facilitator is supporting through her coaching. So we love it. We learned a lot. We were excited to bring it back. We met as a team right away on that PD day to share it with our staff so that they could keep their learning growing. So I just invite, if you guys ever want to come to Jefferson, we would love for you guys to come and check out all of our great work that they're doing.
Angela Shard, I am the facilitator at Madison Elementary School. So I'm going to represent the elementary facilitators tonight. So first of all, I just want to personally thank those of you board members, like Lisa just had said, that have come in to our buildings to observe SFA in action. I think personally it is critically important for all of you to know all of these pieces, the elements of SFA. And so for those of you board members who have not had the opportunity to come in, on behalf of all of the elementary facilitators, we most definitely welcome you in. We want you in. We want you to see the great work that our staff, our students are doing. I think that it's really important for you to be a part of that with us. So this is your official welcome to come in and watch us. I also just want to thank you for sending all of us elementary facilitators to Nashville. We spent a bulk of our time really learning about the greater coaching model, which is not SFA specific. It is more just best practices and how, as coaches, we provide that delicate balance of pulling information out of our teachers. What do they want to work on as practitioners, as well as what to push on them in terms of providing those tips and tricks to boost student learning. So that for me was very valuable, especially with the shift in SFA. We also attended sessions on all of our components. So Curiosity Corner, Kinder Corner, Roots, Wings, Edge. For me personally, having spent the last 7 years in middle school, it was really beneficial for me to go to some specific Kinder Corner trainings, just because that wasn't a world that I lived in when I was in the elementary land. Kindergarten was separate. And so for me personally, just to outgrow myself as an educator and learn more about kindergarten was really vital. I would just say too, being in this district for over 20 years, I do really appreciate the fact that this administration has not only supported us, but supported our learning. Some of you sitting up there know and remember the days of administrations dumping a curriculum onto us and saying, you figure it out and we want results. And if we wanted training, we had to go and provide it out of our own pockets. And so I just appreciate those of you that are supporting us in this learning because it has been so incredibly valuable.
Why don't we do it admin and then we can work on it?
Oh, okay. We each had 3 people come, well, no, you had 2 people that went from Washington, and then we had 3 people that went from Wilson. We thoroughly enjoyed our time. So I'm Anna Beatty, principal at Wilson.
Sandy Telechka, the facilitator at Wilson.
And I'm Steve Saito, I'm the solutions coordinator over at Washington.
Okay. For the Wilson crew that went, we were really excited and took advantage of every possible learning opportunity we could. Between the 3 of us, I think we had 17 different mini sessions that we went to. So it was really nice that we could divide and conquer and kind of hit all different kinds of needs that we needed to address so that we could bring back resources to support our Wilson community. Some of the sessions that we went to included coaching collaborative learning, using comprehension strategies throughout the school day, what it means to be relentless, everyday matters, and that focused on student attendance and the programming within that, intervention teams that really work, grader coaching, and then also working with students who are resistant to cooperative learning. So those were just a couple examples. During those mini sessions, we were really excited to have the opportunity to collaborate with other schools that have already been using SFA for a longer period than us. And Sandy's going to share a couple highlights and takeaways that we had.
So I just want to build on to what Angela said. I've been around for a long time and I've been in the same boat where curriculums have just been dumped on us and said, here, learn it yourself, figure out the best way. And then you have one teacher going one way, one teacher going the other way. And I want to thank you for your support and for sending us to Nashville and the continuing learning that we're able to do, because that is what is making this successful. And I feel very strongly to say that it is successful in our building and all the other buildings as well. One of the great things for me was the first thing I would do when I would sit down at a new conference is introduce myself to the people at the table. And my very first question was, how long has your district been doing SFA? That was my number 1 line. And previous to this, I heard a lot of testimonial from SFA itself, but this allowed me to get the testimonials from other districts. And it was 20 years, 30 years. I heard stories from schools where they did it, they stopped doing it for 7 years, their scores dropped so drastically, they went back to it after a 7-year hiatus. So it was really good for me to hear that longevity and that it's working in other school districts. And then just to have that network now of other middle schools that are doing it across the whole United States. So it was neat to just have that connection with people. Some of the things that were really neat about this conference is I was able to go to sessions that were geared just towards middle school. So a lot of times, or in the past, it was like elementary and middle school with the emphasis more on elementary, but this was geared where we could pick sessions that were just geared towards middle school. So there was a lot of focus on, because they're middle school kiddos, a focus on, what do you do with those students that are a little bit reluctant to work in cooperative groups, or the focus on just the reading edge curriculum, which we teach in the middle school, and how to best share that out. And just to build kind of on what Lisa said about like getting together, I just thought our solutions coordinator, Becca, that went with us, we would be in sessions and we would hear something cool and we were like sending each other like pictures or snapshots while we were right there, because we were just so excited to share out all of the good things that we were learning. So again, thank you for your support.
So like everyone has said, I am also, again, one of the solutions coordinator for the middle school level at Washington Middle School. And from our middle school level, there was 3 of us who went. And so like everybody else, with our solutions teams, I went to support groups or like services that represented our solutions groups at Washington. And then in addition to that, I personally believe that like in order to be successful with SFA, I also went to some of our reading, like programs and curriculums. And so at our building, also with Wilson, we're learning, or we're starting our process of rolling out cooperative culture or cooperative learning into our classrooms. There are not ELA or SFA based. And so having that opportunity to go to one of the listening sessions and see how one of the school districts have incorporated that to all their classrooms, regardless if it was a reading class or a math class or elective class. It helped me get some ideas to bring back to our building at Washington. And so like that was really rewarding. Like everybody else, our team that went from Washington, when we were coming home, we all rode together. So we were all brainstorming ideas as to like how we were going to roll this out when we came back. And so on our PD day, we were able to actually host 3 different sessions where we incorporated the things that we learned at our conference and brought it back and implemented that with our staff during PD days. And they were also like just very excited to learn about it. And last but not least, like I think with any one of us, we can probably all like attest to this. SFA is new to us, and so like at least at Washington, we all question ourselves like, are we doing this effectively? Are we doing this correctly? And like Lisa said, at one of the sessions that I went to, one of the directors noticed me, and she didn't know my name, but she was like, "Hey, you're from Manitowoc, come here." And like she pulled me aside, and she was just very impressed at how well all of our teachers and all of our staff has rolled out SFA. And she too was impressed and said that like first year schools did not do what we did. And so it's something for us to all acknowledge our staff's hard work, because if it's not for our resiliency, like this wouldn't be possible as well.
Thank you so much.
Great job, guys.
Yep, great job. Yep, question?
Yeah, not a question.
Oh.
I just wanted to make a statement and maybe comment as to, thank you, Tiffany, to make, to comment about your question in Washington. I had the time to go to Washington and spend a couple of hours. I also went on a different day and spent some time in Monroe for a couple of hours to observe. And I will tell you that the engagement that I see with the students, it was amazing and almost chokes me up to think about it after leaving some of those rooms and having the coordinator there tell me, now just realize that was a behavior issue group. I'm like, really? You would have never known. So you are doing it right. Whatever you're doing is amazing. And I got to spend some time in the kindergarten class at Monroe. And it's so cute at that age. I remember my daughter being that age. It's just amazing to see the engagement and how they're learning to work together and you know, coming up with solutions and how to work in cooperative manner and things like that. It's amazing. I, for one, am very glad that we sent you. So.
Matthew?
Thank you very much for standing up here and trying to speak the truth that you believe and going through this process. I understand it's not easy for all of you, so thank you for your time being here. With that also, I have a question. There are concerns on this board that we are wasting money on SFA and you guys going to these conferences. Do you believe that you are learning new things and bringing them to Manitowoc instead of living in a little circle? Can you guys answer that to me? I know you already have, but.
I can answer it. I was just gonna say, I think we did answer it, that we're all, as soon as we came here, we were thinking about how can we bring this back to our teachers. And I purposefully took certain sessions because not only was it new information to me, but they actually gave us the pre-ready-made presentations to take right back to our staff that we could use. So I think it's well worth the time for us to attend any kind of training because it's an investment in your staff members. So whether it's an SFA training or if we're training for a new other new curricular resources, it's beneficial because you're helping your staff to understand how to best utilize that new resource so that they can make the most of it. I would hope that any, regardless of education or whatever workplace you're at, you receive the training you need to do your job. And the result of education is it's an ever-changing career, and we have to ebb and flow with the changes that come with that and change our practices as we need to as well. And for that purpose, we have to have the training, ongoing training.
This is meaning something to you. You can see a response to what you're doing. Obviously, your testimony, all of you. But do you have a comment?
I will just mimic that. I get very passionate about it because much like what Angela was saying is there's been a lot of time where it's, here's the new curriculum, figure it out. I've been in
That's
that,
what I'm
I've
aware
been in
of
that
the
position.
past.
And then you go to a conference, you come back and you all kind of learn differently. And this is very much, we expect cooperative learning from our students, but we don't just expect it from them and not model that. Our teachers are modeling that by, you know, the component meetings are every other week that they're getting together, they're learning together, they're growing together. We learn things like, Anna said, you learn something that your building needs and you bring it back and you're doing that because you want your teachers to be the very best they can be. Because when that happens, we don't have 20% of our students reading at grade level anymore. We're raising that bar. We're going to 30, then we're going to 40. Then like Jefferson is like, we have the lowest number. And like, I'm gonna own that because if you can't own that, we're not gonna increase it. But each quarter, we're increasing 5, 6, 7%. And we're doing that because we're empowering our teachers to be the very best they can be so that our students can read. And that's has to happen.
Thank you very much for your efforts, and please tell as many community members about this.
Yeah, thank you.
I have to weigh in here because I have to let you know that this doesn't just happen. This happened on the backside. 8 SFA facilitators who have done a phenomenal job of working together, creating a team, diving in, pushing things. And then you take a look at the principals who have done the same thing, the solution coordinators who have done the same thing. This is a tremendous rollout. Could not have asked for better. And at this point, what I would say is our push is for SFA to catch up with us. Like, we might be teamed or termed as year one. We're not operating as a year one. We're operating as a year 1.5, 2. And we need them to start coming along with us. And we're pushing them for that. But it is because of these people. It isn't because of anything else except the people who are invested and who are working diligently. So thank you guys.
And I just want to echo, oh, sorry, Jamie. I also just want to echo Jamie. So as a school counselor and social worker, like we view things differently from our educators, like by no, like not to.
You didn't even have to say that, Steve.
Our perspectives are different when it comes to student needs. And so like Jamie has said, as a solutions team, whenever we meet with the SFA like coordinators and directors, we too challenge them and ask them like, okay, what more can we do to bring in like student-based learning in terms of like working as teams or addressing like their social emotional learning needs, things of that nature. And so again, SFA has like informed us like it's embedded into the curriculum, but like we as a middle school level team, we want to see more than what is currently embedded. And so hopefully in the near future, they can catch up in that matter to help us build on those soft skills or those people skills that our students will need in our district.
Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate you coming and letting us know your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very proud of you.
And please extend our thanks to everybody on your teams.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jim.
We'll back up.
Yeah, so we're gonna go back. We're still on that same district priority goals.
So the first thing I wanted to do was at the last board meeting, we didn't really discuss it, but there has been the question in terms of we don't have a plan and we don't have metrics to evaluate this. And so Stacy brought this to my attention, to provide metrics. And so we provided some metrics there in terms of what does success look like. And we have, for example, a 20% growth in reading scores in terms of that's a combined assessment. So it's got SFA data, it's got the other assessments that we're using. So that's just one of the targets. And essentially what we've done is those critical targets that we kind of surfaced regarding these target goals are in there. And I would ask just for board support because we'll commit ourselves to that so that we can evaluate our success. Regarding the plan, I will start showing you some of the detailed planning in terms of how they're monitored. You heard in terms of, they were talking about what level were they, were they at the intro level, were they at much more advanced. It's very laid out in terms of how to prioritize this work and doing first things first. So there's so much more we can share. But what I wanted to do is come back and say, we heard you. Okay, here it is. We'll put it on our website. We'll put it on every school site so that it's available for all of us. So that's just the first thing we didn't talk about it last time. But if you have any questions in terms of that, what was in there, that's the first thing was just, we didn't hit it last meeting. We were at the conference, but we were ready to discuss it and we didn't.
So just to clarify, that the document that's in there, looking at the goals and how it's gonna be measured, unless there is objection by this board, that's what the administration will continue to work on and let us know their progress towards these goals.
I had a
Okay, Tony?
question. Yeah, I was curious, Jim, I had talked to you in the past about possibly getting a similar dashboard how we have for the reading progress.
Right.
With SFA. Is it feasible to get something like that in place for math and behavior by early next year? Or?
We are discussing, yes, early next year, definitely. We are discussing one thing, for example, for math, if you might recall, Jamie reported out before that we moved it up on the curriculum cycle. So we're going to actually do our math review. Is that next year or year after? Well, anyways, we moved it up a year, but we recognize the importance of that other foundational skill, to the extent that we're demonstrating in terms of where we're at and how we're setting goals and how we're proceeding. So that is a priority, that we're incorporating there.
Can we add that to this list then?
The math?
I would suggest, I'd like to see something similar with math, with behavior. I didn't know if attendance might be another good one to measure in there too, but I'll defer to some of my peers that might have more experience, but I'm just trying to get one of the things that I really think would be valuable that we didn't have before, but we have now, is this progress monitoring, right? So instead of this one time a year, we get this score on the state report card and we're all just kind of scratching our heads saying, gee, why didn't we do better than this? Really, what I like about the way we're doing things now is that we have a regular interval every quarter where we can see how our kids are doing.
One of the things that we have, Tony, right now that's very visible within the schools, and, because there's so much we could be showing you, but all those areas you identified, in terms of attendance and parent engagement, and we have set quarterly goals at every school site. And it's being monitored. Did we meet that goal? I mean, what's the strategy for it? How are we measuring it? Right. And so every quarter they're doing that. And in fact, what happens was they have that quarterly meeting. The whole school is involved in reporting out because they're all part of some group or a couple groups. Right. And they're doing exactly what you said, and to that level of detail. You heard the greater coaching. That was part of, also this fits in, in terms of how to encourage. This is a distributive leadership model in its full engagement. But with that, Tony, all that extrapolates up to at the, district wide. What does that look like? So we have that information. What I'll do immediately was start sharing with you what these individual schools are doing in terms of that level of detail with setting quarterly goals and then how they do on that goal. Now, one of the things that we need to factor in, and we have measures for math.
We do.
That we will report math, also to create that. So it's all teed up, Tony. We're trying to build off of systems that are already presented to us. But it's how to kind of move that into that district level so it's been easy for us on the reading, to be able to capture that.
So I would, maybe a suggestion I could make is that when we come back to the district quarterly goals, that you add that in there for next time, and so that we can see that and when there might be a rollout of that. Would that sound good?
When's next time? Is that gonna be like next year or?
No, I'm talking about it in the district priority goals, when he comes back
Gotcha.
again next month to talk about them, that would be in there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
This is amazing, great. However, I don't want it to become a shelf document. Like, this needs to be on our website, and this needs to be informed to the public, like constantly. Like this, our community, they need to know this. Like this is what we're trying to achieve. So like, if we put it on the website, that's great. However, not everybody's going to go redirected to the MTSD website to see this. So I just would like some sort of information for the community members that this is our goals. And I think we need to do that better.
Well, that kind of, go ahead.
Well, before I get too euphoric about this, I have to tell you that I daily get, communications from parents who, number one, want to survey, want to have an opportunity to be surveyed and comment on how they see it with their own children in their own homes. And, you know, it's not all as bright as you'd like to project, because there's a lot of these parents who are saying their kids just hate school now in many cases, and that it's, you know, especially kids that are already reading pretty well, who are bored with the reading, feel stifled by the restrictions on the instruction and that. I do think that, you know, we need to pay attention to that. We need to pay attention to that. We need to, like, you know, look at both sides of the process if we're really going to succeed in, you know, dealing with all the children. So I know that this rains on your parade, but nevertheless, I get stuff every day on this. I get stuff every day on this. And nobody's even bringing that up, and that's why I'm bringing it up. And I think we need to be honest and diligent and truthful about every aspect. I mean, you know, there is some concern that the 10% gain may be kind of a mirage that's happening on the inside without being compared to, like, test scores on the forward exams. So I just think that we still have quite a bit of work to do in dealing with issues that I think, you know, are being ignored.
Carrie, I would not say that they're ignored. Jamie, do you want to report out in terms of meeting with the special ed parents yesterday?
Sure. After, I just gotta say something. One of the things that I got to observe in Washington was the children that were beyond that, like you had addressed in the honors portion of SFA. And I'll tell you, what a brilliant group of kids, and what they were reading was, to be honest, even beyond me. And these kids are in 8th grade. So I mean, I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I see a vast array of where the children are at, whether they're way ahead of their game and reading into high school and honors programs, or bringing them up to. So I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I do know that we have plans and spots for keeping kids constantly engaged, no matter what their level is at. That's what I see.
Yeah, I went to Wilson. That's where I'm liaisoning, and I know Sandy pretty well. She was a student of mine, a very, very, you know, bright student. And we had pretty candid conversation, and most of my impressions were pretty positive.
Okay.
And you know, if I was to base my own kind of response to what's going on, at least in Wilson, I'd say, man, this looks pretty good, doesn't it? It looks really pretty good. And I ask some pretty hard questions too. My concern is that, you know, I'm almost all my email that's negative is from parents who know their children much better than I do and see them much more than, you know, the hour I sat through or the 2 hours I sat through with a couple of these sessions. So, I mean, I just really think we need to know how parents in the community are reacting to this. And they get a chance to ask their questions. And that we get the opportunity to try to make whatever adjustments that we see are necessary, rather than just being, as I said, too prematurely euphoric about this.
Jamie? I agree with everything you said. I think the part of having any type of a curriculum review cycle or the adoption has to include parent perspective, and it also has to include staff perspective. And that's every year, every curriculum. So April is our time to push it out, to ask department chairs, ask your folks,
So I'm gonna move that to the middle school. Ask your folks, how did the new adoption of science go? What things are you supplementing with? Because that tells us where they see the gaps, rather than just asking for the gaps. And what we don't want to do is ever tell a teacher, you can't supplement. Because a teacher reaching out for a supplemental piece of material is a red flag to us. They see something's missing. So we want to make sure that our staff know, just tell us what that is, so that we can build it in and change that cycle. In that whole transparency thing, what you'll see is we'll gather the information, we'll make the changes, and then we'll lock it down for next year. Next year in April, we'll gather the input, we'll make the changes, and then we'll roll it out again. Yesterday, last night, we met with, I think there was a group of 7, not sure. And one of the things that I worry about with SFA is the amount of time we have children changing instructors. Not all children, but when they make a move upward, they can be assigned to a new instructor. Very difficult for some children with autism. And so that was actually confirmed to me by the parents. So now what are we gonna do with that information? We're gonna go back in and say, okay, how do we prepare children for changes that don't like change or they don't function well? But just that piece of information can help us to make it better. Not all roses. A really good rollout through a dedicated staff, but it's not perfect. There is no product out there that is. But we just have to keep working to make it better and better and better. So, yeah.
I have to agree with Carrie. I see no purpose in taking a dashboard and putting down that we're gaining 5 to 10% in reading scores when all we're doing is looking within the program at those gains. Those gains do not have any relevance to state standards and state testing. So all we're doing is gaining within a program. And to put that information out to the public through the newspaper and radio talk shows where those people don't understand that all we're doing is gaining within a program is unfair to the community. To tell our district that our kids are up 10% in reading when it's just within the program. And we have to be honest that way to say, hey, we may be doing a great job, but it doesn't matter until the state's test scores come out and we can see the growth statewide on the reading test that is considered for all kids in Wisconsin. 10% of SFA or 10% of Calkins or 10% of Houghton Mifflin is nothing until it is on a standardized test that shows reading happens. So to put that out publicly is not fair to this community.
You don't think we should encourage people?
I'm not saying that, encourage them, but what I'm saying is don't tell them something that isn't true to reading ability. It's reading ability within a program, not within state tests.
Reading ability is reading.
Are you suggesting that reading is not getting better?
Yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting?
It's getting better within SFA, but that doesn't mean anything to the state test.
And means it to the kid.
Yeah.
See, so can I, you go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tony, finish up.
I guess from my perspective, growth is growth, right? And when I talk to staff and they tell me, hey, I believe, and I've asked this question because I've heard you talk about this quite a bit the last couple of months, you know, really, it seems to me like throwing shade every chance you get on the growth that we're seeing. So I asked staff, and I asked them specifically, I'm like, hey, is it fair to, if we're seeing this growth in the SFA scores, which by the way, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Jim and Jamie, it includes nationally normed data from Fastbridge, right? So it's not just SFA data, it's got some national comparison data. And if those staff members are telling me that it's reasonable to assume that we'll see similar growth because the state scores actually had them at the same spot or very similar within percentage points of SFA, wouldn't it be reasonable to conclude that we'll see similar growth? And shouldn't we celebrate that?
Reasonable in Iowa or in Ohio, not reasonable in
Well,
Kansas.
we don't know how Iowa did their testing. Ours,
Ohio went up, Kansas stayed flat.
well, I don't know how they test, but I know that our state measures growth and it weights growth heavily. And we're seeing a lot of growth, dude.
Matthew Phipps?
Yeah, so obviously, I'm not all about just teaching to a test, to a state test, because when you see a child's eyes light up when they can read for the first time, or they can read a sentence completely, to see that growth in the individual is all the reward that a teacher, and I've heard this many times, and I've seen it myself, is when you see a child grow from where they started to where they're going, and how they feel liberated and free, to be able to explain that to the program and to the community that this is working on an individual level and meeting them, I would celebrate that completely. And obviously you're against that, but I'm for that. So we have a disagreement that I'm not just teaching for a state test, I'm teaching for growth in the community.
So I need to clear up a misconception here. What we're looking at is a placement document. The placement document places 10% more students on average at grade level reading. That document is used based on FastBridge nationally normed assessment, teacher perception, and an SFA, which is a curriculum-based measure. You are absolutely right. We don't know the correlation between FastBridge and Forward. We don't know that yet. That's going to take us 2 years to figure that out. Do we think we're going to be close? We think we're going to be close. Do we think we're going to get 10% on the Forward? I don't know that. We are going to get a gain. I have no doubt of that, because we have 10% more of our students who are reading on grade level. Your Forward test for grade level proficiency. So we will see a gain. 10%, don't know. You know they're changing the Forward test? We might see a gain just because of that. So we can look at the Forward. We also have to be looking at the gap between the rest of the state's norm. That's where we're going to see the Forward. It's not the number, it's are we closing that gap? Are we moving forward? There's so many different pieces to student performance and student proficiency that to pick one test, to pick one day, pick one measure would be irresponsible of us. We are not going to do that. But we're also not going to wait and only give a test one time a year and then determine, oof, we missed the boat. Can't do that.
Jamie, can I ask real quick?
Yeah.
Is it reasonable from our seat at the board level, if we can get proper optics in place that allow us to see the progress throughout the year, every quarter, wouldn't that be beneficial? So we could at least know, like, hey, if we're getting worse for a quarter, we'll know, like, all right, we're probably not on track to see increases, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's really what I'm asking for. Like, if we want to make good decisions.
It's about aging learning. That's what it's about. And it's also, I know in a former life I know that NWEA correlates to the Michigan state test at 60%. It's a predictability thing for me. So if I'm not getting students to the 60th percentile in reading, then they're unlikely to pass the Michigan test. It might be the same thing with FastBridge. We might find that they have to get at 70% to pass the Forward. We don't know that yet.
But what's critically important is to recognize that if you wait to the end test that comes out next year, that is essentially doing an autopsy, where you can't do anything to improve instruction. Anybody who understands the research understands the importance of formative interim assessments. And we aren't using one measure, we're using multiple measures, because it is to try to project out where you're going to end up, and you're looking for always trying to create that we clearly understand how tight that is, but it enables us to adjust instruction. Last year, what did we have? We did not have a nationally normed exam. We had one school that was using something, even though we paid for it for the whole school district. And so when we talk about in this critical nature that we're just kind of blowing our horn, I don't think there could be anything further from the truth. But I don't know that this is a debatable issue. It's just, we just need to know where we stand. Are we supporting the decision, to move forward? And what we're trying to do is assess our way to continue to make sure we're better in that we're adjusting our instruction right away. So for example, we get poor results, we're probably figuring we're doing something wrong in instruction. What is it? But, right now, let's wait for the, end of the result that we won't get into next year, and let's do the autopsy. Right? Those kids are gone.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Right. I mean, you have to have that visibility. I mean, otherwise it's a lot harder to know what you're doing throughout the year. You're just really throwing darts at that point.
Carrie?
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this, but, there is a real tendency on this board and with the administration to just love all the good news that comes along. And that's a natural sort of response to, I'm happy that we're 10% and that we're not minus 10%. I mean, I'm glad that there's some sign of growth, et cetera, et cetera. And you may think I'm quibbling about that or something, but I'm not. I'm just raising some other things that need to be paid attention to. This board also has a really strong tendency to just dismiss the negative things that are happening in this school system, such as, a three times higher than national average attrition in teachers. And comments by parents that say, my kid hates school now. He doesn't like it, or she doesn't want to go in the morning. Those things are very real. And I know that we have a tendency on this board and with this administration to just sort of do nothing about the teacher thing, do very little to recognize the negatives that also need work if we're going to have a balanced and consistent movement forward.
Carrie, I couldn't agree more with you, except for the fact you made an assumption which I totally take issue with. You're suggesting we aren't following up where we're hearing that something isn't right. Why was Jamie attending with me, the special ed parents? We were looking for feedback, and we got it. And as she just explained, we are also now charging our principals. Principals, we've kind of set it out there so that you have a structure, you have systems, and you need to know if you're hearing something that isn't working, you need to follow up on that. So it's not only just the successes, which I think every teacher would want to be having encouragement, as well as the administrators. It's also finding out in terms of, okay, do we need to tweak something? What happened at the very beginning, we recognized with all the curriculum that we reviewed that they were weak and right. All the curriculum. And so we did something because we were recognizing that there was a deficiency. And you're making an assumption that we aren't following up on this. And I disagree with you.
Well,
And I would,
honestly,
Carrie, stop. Other people are going to talk.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing I would say is that what are you doing as a school board member when parents come to you and are you encouraging them to talk to the facilitator? Are you encouraging them to go to the principal? Because there's a lot of misinformation that the parents get that if we would use our resources that we have and direct those parents to that. I mean, if I've heard it one time, I've heard it 100 times that kids that are accelerated are not serviced in SFA. That can't be further from the truth. And if you knew the program and if we could educate the parents, so are you telling the parents to go to their facilitator, go back to the teacher and to find out?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
It's my fault, I guess.
No,
Is that what you're saying?
I just think as a board, I think we all need to make sure when we get those complaints that we are helping our parents understand. We need to be part of the solution and say, gosh, that's different than what I know about it. Let's get them connected with the people that have the information.
Yeah,
That's all I'm
okay.
saying.
Well, I did my best to try to draw attention to the survey that was done in May with the staff.
Okay, we're not talking about.
Yeah,
that
we
right
are
now,
talking
Carrie.
about that
We're
because
not talking about
You said you got emails every day. That's what we were addressing. That's what
So,
she was addressing. What are you doing?
Anybody else want to say anything about
Oh,
SFA?
okay.
before we
Well, I
move
thought
on?
I had the floor, but that's okay.
We're moving
Yeah,
on.
that's okay.
We're going
Go
into
We're going into the election results and then the district.
No, one of the things we haven't finished the agenda is I'm asking for an affirmation, in terms of, is the board supporting SFA as a top priority?
Okay, so then I have some comments on that, because I'm a little upset. I take offense to the letter that you wrote about FSA, and let me just go over some of the stuff that, and let me say, first of all, I thank the people in the community who contacted me, text, letters, cards, came up and supported me because of the way that you handled that letter. If I look at that letter, one of the things you say is there's a board member talking to principals negatively about SFA. Is that me? Are you saying that that's me? Or is it one of the other people sitting here?
Where is this?
Is that me?
This is under the FFA direction confirmation.
I don't know, is it Beth?
Is it?
I only know that we've had principals and staff who reported to us.
About me? Is that what you're saying? Because I will tell you, I have not talked to a principal in this district about FSA. So I don't know where you got that. Perhaps it's the same person, Mr. File, that said the teachers at Lincoln are teaching DEI and CRT and they're indoctrinating our kids, and you couldn't tell me who that was. And you said it twice. So I take offense to that. And you know what? I take offense to the fact that I represent taxpayers of this district.
Yeah.
And you are upset because I'm asking for information about taxes and the cost of this program. Why am I not coming to you? Why am I not coming to Jamie? Let me tell you, the first time I spoke in public comments here, she comes up and reprimands me during that when she did a presentation on something else. And as president, you probably should have stopped that because you're not supposed to give feedback to public comment. But she did it anyway, it wasn't on the agenda, and she attacked what I said. Not fair, that's not the way we do things. Then, I go to Angela, I go to Mike because I want information on the cost of FSA. Why that's a bad thing, I can't go to a finance committee, we don't have one. Okay, am I gonna take it from you? Am I gonna take the information from you, Jim? No. So I go to the people that handle that. I can't go to a personnel committee to talk about your contract because we don't have one of those. So that's why it has to be an open session here.
The other ones are open too, by the way.
All of them are now,
They are.
okay? And stuff doesn't get covered. We don't cover it. We passed a budget in how many minutes when at different levels of the city and the county, we take months to go over that with meetings. But can't do that. Just so everybody knows, I had nothing to do with that letter that was also in there, the long letter about complaints sent to 10,000 people or something. I would never have the time to write a letter that long. I didn't do that, but it was included in this document that just trashed me. And I'm tired of that. And if this board would have looked at the history of you doing the same thing to a Ms. Crandall over in Traverse City, yeah, laugh about it, but the newspaper came back and said it was a bad thing that you did.
Does this have anything?
So am I the board member? I must be the board member now that's the evil one on this board. Well, you know what? I am happy that I'm asking questions about FSA and the cost of that to this district. And I give you credit for bringing this up with a month and a week till the election. I give you credit for that because at least the community is going to know now.
Yes.
But you know what? We can't go on $936,000 extra dollars, and somebody put out something about, oh, we're saving all this money with the reorganization of central office. We're saving $182,000, but we're spending $900 on 8 coaches.
On professional development.
Yes, and we're spending another $2,000 on that. Okay, but we're saving $100,000 here. But you know what, Matt, you can laugh about it, Matt, but those butts aren't in seats in the district office. Those are out there and they're doing the same thing, just in a different location. So don't give me this, we're saving money and this is wonderful and FSA is worth every penny. The state of Wisconsin didn't even certify it.
So I would say, at this time, I'd like to take a motion in a second to reaffirm that, we are in support of SFA and, that is our district priority goal.
Why do we need the motion? Why do we need this motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
And I would like to say, I mean, again, this illustrates how this board, there are certain board members here that do not support SFA, and the teachers that are working hard, and we're here to present tonight.
Calm down. Paid employees say bullshit.
Right, and that we have invested money in this program and their professional development. So.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Madam President, you don't want discussion on issues, you don't want talking about it, so we just move on. Okay?
Just went on a soapbox.
Yeah, you know why? You know why, Matt? Because people here think SFA is wonderful. You don't see any negative to it. You don't see what's going on. You don't see. What? You don't
How many
see.
classrooms have you attended?
How many classes?
How many SFA classrooms have you gone to?
Oh, wow. Wow, is my fob not registering at buildings or something? I'm at Lincoln High School more than I'm at any elementary school. I'm up there working with kids, all right?
And have you seen an SFA classroom?
Yes.
Not at Lincoln High School.
No, because Lincoln doesn't have that.
Listen, don't say you've seen one. We just see testimony from teachers and the people within SFA that invited you and have been inviting you. The only thing that you've been doing is throwing criticism at this without even investigating any of it on yourself.
Trying to investigate.
Okay? So that's what bothers me is because you do hear this good news. You hear the good things that are happening, but refuse to acknowledge it. You refuse to acknowledge anything positive.
So I would again like to.
It's pretty categorical.
We have a first, a motion and a second. All those in favor of reestablishing or confirming that we are, SFA implementation is our #1 priority goal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. Nay.
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Or to say something.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Shall we know where the support lies?
Thank you. I would also ask, in terms of, I have no problems with doing analysis work. It does consume a lot of time. I'm fully willing to do this. If this is important, just ask the board to give me that directive. Because if that needs to be a priority, we will make it a priority.
Okay, so let's go back up to A for the spring primary election results. Jim.
I think the results are in there in terms of, Lori has put them in there. They're certified, correct, Lori?
Yes. Great, any questions about that at all? All right, then we are going to move on to #2, under the report of the superintendent, B, #2, the listening session feedback.
Yeah, one of the, we have reported out in the In Focus, some of our follow-up from the listening sessions. One of the things that we heard during our listening sessions from various sites was the negativity on the board. It was the political battering, and there was also concern in terms of that information is being gathered sometimes from social sites which are inaccurate and misleading. And so part of the thing that I committed to was bringing this to the board's attention, that they are not feeling supported because of, they feel it's a distraction to what they're attempting to do. And so they don't see a unified voice here. I think we recognize there's differences, right now. And it's not that differences help you make informed decisions. If you recall, when we first advanced SFA, I recommended only 2 sites. And that was criticized. And so we investigated it, and we sent people, and we looked at it. And from that, there was agreement. We shouldn't just do that at 2 sites. If that is considered the best program, we should do it at 10 sites or 8 sites. all elementary and middle school, and that's what we did. So it's actually good, when we have some challenges that we need to follow up on, and that's what we did. Now I guess, and that's going to Kansas, it's going to Ohio. And what's interesting now is what we're hearing, but I guess it's like we're just blowing our horn. But one of the things, if you recall, that you heard, they couldn't believe kids were doing this. And now I think anybody has gone and even seen it for themselves. We're hearing teachers and the SFA facilitators that kids are doing things that they weren't doing before. They're loving learning. That doesn't mean all, because we're following up on who is not in there. With that, I'm bringing it to your attention, to the extent that this is a concern out at a majority of sites in terms of how the board is conducting its business. So I just did my follow-up in terms of bringing it to your attention. I put me into that because I feel responsibility, for what can I do to enable the board to be effective. One of the things I think is always legitimate, are you getting the information you need to make informed decisions? And, and quite often I think I'm challenged with, no, not enough. Well, then we need to do more.
Okay, the next item is.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I mean, I'd like to know who's complaining about, Biff and I, or Biff and me, and maybe Chris sometimes, et cetera. I mean,
It was the whole board.
Just a minute, okay? Sometimes somebody should like do the order here, so because I've got the floor, okay? I've got the floor.
Because you never interrupt, Carrie.
Oh, no, that's true. That's true. I sometimes do.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm really getting really tired of the sort of the dialogue that goes on here, that every time there's criticism, especially of the superintendent, we get a kind of a paranoid conspiracy theory thrown back at us that, it's the bad guys on the board, and it's the alley group in the community, and it's the disgruntled people who, bitch about their taxes going up. But mostly it's about there's not enough unity on the board, and I just don't know how how that can be, because there are things that need to be brought up, and bringing things that are negative up, or bringing issues that may disturb me or may disturb Biff or somebody else. That's not, as you say, a deliberate attempt to undermine the programs that we've got in motion. I mean, it's just a silly kind of a crybaby way of not taking responsibility for things that really deserve attention and response to. So, I just think that we need to grow up on this stuff and stop being paranoid and accusatory because there's some dissent on this board. I mean, I represent the taxpayers. I represent them as best I can. No, I haven't gone to, I haven't gone to any elementary school sessions on Success for All, but nevertheless, I do think that I'm informed enough I think I'm informed enough. And my perspective may be different than yours. And my concerns may be, different than yours. And the fact is this board should never be in total lockstep. But, we have clearly one faction that is.
Okay, so Jim is providing information that came directly from the teachers about how they are feeling about this board. The whole board, all of it.
It's pretty selective information, isn't it?
It came from,
it's just
came
like
from the listening session.
Jim picks the stuff that makes him look better, and makes us look like we're the cause of the problems.
Now who's paranoid?
Oh,
Okay.
is it?
Sounds like it to me.
So,
Yes.
so the feedback I got from the listening sessions is worthless because I didn't get what he got. I will say this, I got some positive about Jamie because she's been going to Jackson for lunch and sitting in the lunchroom. Okay, so teachers were pretty positive about that, but I did not get the same positive he got. Now, that's okay. People aren't going to say the same thing to me that they're going to say to him. But there is another side to what's going on, and that's the concern is we never get that. Everything's always, if it's your fault.
I was just reading over this letter here too, and I was trying to find where that you claim that this is all about you. I didn't see your name in here.
It isn't.
Oh, it isn't.
It isn't. It's amazing.
Well, you just accept it.
Can I talk?
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're gonna move on.
My question is to Gary and if you guys are such against SFA, why wouldn't you go to an elementary? Because you just admitted that you haven't gone to elementary. Why wouldn't you just go and see if it is a bunch of bullshit? You just admitted that you didn't go to any elementary school.
I didn't admit that. That's what he said.
I said I didn't go to.
You said it 5 minutes ago.
No.
Yes, you did.
I was asking.
You were like it. Whatever, it's fine. We can look at that's fine. We can look at the video. It's fine. I won't debate you.
I don't think it's just, you know,
Okay,
it's,
so we're gonna move on.
oh, we are.
Yeah. So Jim gave the report on the listening session, and let's go now to talk about central office cost benefit analysis. This was something that Biff had requested to have on the agenda. And there was a document provided to everyone. And Biff, would you like to ask some questions?
Well, my question last week was why one person got $35,000, one got $20,000, and Michael responded, and he was not part of that negotiation and why that happened. But I think another reason that I wanted this brought up is in our district, if you're a married couple, you get no benefit at all because you can't take health insurance. Your spouse can, but you can't, no matter who takes it or whatever. And there's no benefit, but yet we give benefit to administrators. And I think that's something we need to talk about, that why do they get it, but people who work for the district don't get anything, and they're losing health insurance. And I don't know what the philosophy is behind that, or the reason for that. I also would like a reason to know why one person gets $20,000, which I'm assuming is the cost of health insurance, roughly what the policy is, and another person gets $35,000.
These aren't the only.
I can answer. So those are closed session negotiations that go on. So
But we're no longer in closed session, and as long as you don't share the minutes from closed session, you can discuss what was discussed.
I'm saying the negotiation of a contract was done in closed session. So that was a negotiation, and Mike was there, or whoever, not Mike wasn't, sorry, I shouldn't say. When there's a negotiation of a contract, it's done in closed session, and that's maybe what one person asked, and then the board comes back and makes a response. Maybe they give 20%, or what they were, they meet in the middle somewhere. So that was I'm trying to broad a broad brush of it, but it's a negotiation process in closed session between the Board of Education and the individual. That's your answer, why the prices are different.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, unless I'm mistaken, the contract values are still below comparable size schools. They're on the lower end. So the total compensation, even if you factor in the fringe benefits, is still on the lower end for districts that are similar size.
Not if you compare.
And please let me finish. So that's one component, is just those specific salaries. The other component I'd like to point out is that our central office costs are actually lower today than they were a year ago. And I would argue our central office is better than it was a year ago. So that's the other piece that, we could sit here and split hairs on salaries, but when you look at the overall cost of taxpayers, the central office costs less. Am I understand that right, Jim?
Yep, that's correct.
The district is not central office. When you works here, works here. But the
Again-
increases with the change in central office and the changes within the district, we're up a lot more money than we were before that happened.
So,
Sorry, I will talk. Yeah, I guess my response to that is, the district is in the process of evaluating all of our spend, right? So we're responsible for a significant budget. And I'd like to also remind you that even prior to SFA, the last decade, the district spent $724 million, right? And what do we have to show for that? Every year, we burn through tens of millions of dollars, averaging over $70 million a year in cash. And in that time period, up until the last couple of quarters, like, I don't know if we've seen any measurable rise in reading proficiency. So, I hear what you're saying, and I agree, we need to be prudent to taxpayers. But if we're going to have an honest conversation about being prudent to taxpayers, that has to include the $74 million a year in average spend that we've had the last 10 years prior to SFA.
Can we have an honest conversation? Test scores went up before SFA was implemented.
Where?
I believe it was Franklin and Jefferson grade schools.
Right.
And it was the year that kids came back and had a live teacher in front of them instead of learning how to read over a computer.
The reading proficiency.
One of the other
didn't go up.
schools,
Reading proficiency didn't go up according to the state.
it went up in those schools.
It went up in Franklin for sure, I knew that.
I don't believe it went up on average though for the district.
That's good.
So may have had a couple buildings, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at the district average.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So it was okay to look at the performance of two schools and their internal data, but not at the overall state report card.
It was okay that those two schools went up and nobody ever mentioned that.
We
That
definitely praised them.
the reading scores of those two schools, and it might have been three, because there was another, I thought Madison also had a good year of reading, but they went up, but there was no recognition of that.
I think.
It's not always programmed. Sometimes those same things, Matt, I love it when you talk about what you see in a classroom and some of the good things, but those same things happen in other classrooms without SFA.
Absolutely, we got to
And
make
they've
it.
happened throughout the career of everybody who's been a teacher. And sometimes those reading scores go up because of the people in front of the room rather than just that program.
I agree with you, and it
So
completely
let's
shows the
give credit then to
adaptability.
that happening.
Huh?
Let's give credit to that happening.
I remember praising those two schools when their reading or whatever scores went up. I very much remember that.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's, I would think it would be common, or at least good knowledge, to know that when you do have a teacher in front of them, the scores are going to go up.
Okay, I want to just rein our conversation because we're talking about central office cost benefit
Yeah, I know, we got
analysis and
I
TSAs.
remember what I wanted to say.
Do we,
Okay,
Through our strategic planning, which we took quite a bit of time about, one of our main things we were trying to achieve is bringing the money to the student themselves. And we identified that central office was not the students, so we wanted to reallocate resources directly to the students at the facilities. So that's it was kind of a part of our planning, that we were trying to get the money to the students directly. So that's kind of why the cost analysis of central office was kind of an important part, because we wanted to get the money away from central office because we felt that they weren't doing their job correctly, and we wanted to put it into the teachers and into the students, directly bringing our money from the taxpayers to the students.
is there any more questions about TSA?
Which is wonderful.
Well, I'm saying.
What you said is wonderful.
I'm saying that's what we were trying to
Right.
do.
It's wonderful, but then don't take some analysis of central office and money going down when we're just spending it a different place. Well, you did the right thing by putting it back where the students are to get. But don't say, oh, we saved money at central office by reorganizing, when we put it out and we're spending it in a better place, but we're spending it for kids, but we're not saving money. The money is still the taxpayer
Didn't you
money being
ask for
spent.
this?
We're just putting it in a more important place.
Okay, so back to questions about TSA. Biff, I don't know that we've answered what you wanted to answer.
Well, I would respectfully request the minutes from those meetings where this contract was negotiated to see if there's anything on why one is higher than the other. There should be minutes that were kept for those meetings. The other thing is, how do we look at some possible benefit to our staff if they aren't allowed to take the health insurance because their spouse takes it, but yet they're working for the district, they're out $20,000 as a teacher in the district because they can't take it? Is there some benefit we can give that person?
Mike, are these the only two people that have TSAs in our? Do we have other people with TSA?
Well, all administrators have, I believe, principals have a $1,600 TSA, directors have a $2,100 TSA.
Okay. Are they getting that in lieu of not taking benefits, or do they have benefits as well?
No, they have, a lot of them have benefits also.
Okay. So this isn't necessarily because they didn't take benefits, it's just something that's probably common within
It's been,
practice.
it's been historically part of their compensation package.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Chris?
And how many of the teachers then have TSAs in their contracts?
I don't think so.
Okay, just making sure we understand.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what he said.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
He asked how many teachers.
I said, I don't think it.
They don't get it.
Right.
Angela, I was going to ask you about, I remember a couple years ago, we changed the insurance and with spouses.
Correct.
Correct. Can you just let everybody know what happened and why we did that?
Just in general, our cost of healthcare continues to rise. Our average price per member that we're paying on our self-insured plan, which includes, our claims along with our premium costs, so I think that's where we kind of get caught up a little bit sometimes, is $16,000 per member right now when, trend should be closer to 6,000. So one of the reasons we implemented the spousal surcharge is because our plan was taking on and supporting more families in a way where they would have insurance available somewhere else. And so anytime someone doesn't take their spouse's insurance or their insurance at their employer, that employer is essentially saving, but we carry the burden of the cost. So we wanted to make sure that, like anyone that has a spouse in the district doesn't pay the surcharge. Anyone that doesn't have insurance available to them does not pay that surcharge, but it helps sort of mitigate the cost of claims, which is extensive. I do also want to mention that when you look at just a family plan, the cost of the high deductible health plan and the traditional PPO plan annually is $27,000 for the PPO plan, and the high deductible plan, $24,000. If you take a single plan, you're looking at $10,000 a person. So, we'll work with employees that, if let's say it's a husband and wife and they have no kids on their plan, it's cheaper for them to both be on single plans. But then their family plan together that covers children also, where we cover the claims cost, along with the premium, is, over double of that. So, it's not quite an even exchange when it comes to that cost. So just something to think about.
Do we cover any costs associated with retirements for health insurance?
Well, our cost on our claims itself right now is, our whole insurance, self-insured plan is about $12 million, $12.5 million. 25% of that covers the cost of retirement benefits on our plan currently. And then the other 75% is our current employees. So, that's a huge part, we have some evaluation to do as a district on our OPEB and just ways, because even that benefit for, if I were a teacher that was working in this district for 30, 40 years, right now, the structure of our benefit provides them $500 if they're on a family plan, or $250 if they're on a single plan, because of the increase of cost of insurance, we're finding that our retired teachers are actually are finding a better deal on the marketplace more times than not than, realizing a benefit. So we have what was a really strong benefit is not really the case anymore. We need to look at that because we want to invest in our teachers and have something that serves as a better retention tool for that. And then we get subject to adverse selection in a lot of ways because people that really maybe can't afford or a different plan or something like that will end up being on our plan, but have really high cost claims as well. So it's complex. There's a lot that goes to it. Being self-insured, we get the best rebates, we get the best management for dollar, but it's we have work to do there.
I have a question regarding that small surcharge. Because at my place, if my wife was to have a full-time job and have employee or insurance available to her and she didn't take it, my spousal surcharge is $400. What is ours here?
It is $75 a month.
Oh, $75.
And we don't have a carve out. So we allow them to be on our plan. Some employers will totally carve it out and say you can't be on the plan. So I mean, we really wanted to leave that as a benefit for our employees where they can still be on that.
Yeah, $75 is the minimal, I think, but yeah.
So Biff, I wrote down the things that you were asking about, and we'll put that on the next agenda with some answers for that, okay? Okay, I wish I would have forwarded this, but I'm so sorry. The McKinley visioning session. Stephanie, come on up.
Oh,
So sorry, you guys. I tried to get everybody that was a guest, their stuff first.
Okay, so this is more exciting stuff to talk about.
Stephanie, just let everybody know who both of you are, just so everybody knows.
All right, Stephanie Butcher, principal at McKinley Academy, and this is
Bobby Jo Johnson. I'm the school counselor.
Okay, so we had a visioning session for McKinley, what it is now, and possibilities for the future. Carrie and Stacy were both part of it. It was on February 15th from 4 to 6. So what we started with was just a brief overview of why we were all there. Then we talked about what McKinley has been, the perception. I think the common theme was people have different perceptions. It's really an unknown thing by everybody. So then we went over some surveys that I did regarding from staff, parents, and some community members, and what the need really is. The highest things that we saw is we need more alternative programming. We also saw that communication so far, because we do have alternative programming, but nobody really knows about it. Even a substitute today or yesterday told me about our community U. He's like, I never knew about this program, and he loved working out there. So better communication about what we do offer. And regarding curriculum, extracurriculars, everybody was kind of all the same answers. It shows that they don't know what kind of curriculum or anything that we use there. So that I was not shocked about. So then we did some activities in groups. So everybody was in small groups, and we did small groups first and then a large group. We did an activity to define principles and values. So some common things that I found amongst everybody there, which we all agreed upon, was connection to community, accountability, curiosity to discover new learning, growth and engagement, and achievement for all students. So you guys, if I miss anything, just jump in. The values, which we all decided were the strongest things that we thought of, were voice and choice for learning, for student learning, purpose and relevance of the curriculum to why they need it in life, equity, recognize where students are, keep the high levels of learning, but how do we get them there? So recognizing where they are and coming up with like individualized planning to get them where they need to be instead of lowering the bar. So the big thing too is critical thinkers and self-advocates is what we need them to be with by the time they leave us. Whether whichever program it is. The need, which was the most common between everybody there, the top three, there was a lot of needs that we came up with, but the top three was credit recovery was the biggest one. Some said year round, go through summer, offer it as well. Also options for 9th and 10th grade students. So some students aren't ready for the transition to Lincoln, the big high school. So maybe a alternative program for 9th and 10th graders where they are catching up on academic needs, social emotional needs, and then in that 11th, 12th grade year, they can pick whether Lincoln or another program. We have whatever fits them best. And then another big one, which a lot of students also answered this in the survey, was more hands-on learning. So kind of that like exploratory learning, or teachers also wanted to see a senior capstone involved if we do a program. And that capstone and hands-on learning, all of that stuff would be incorporate connection to apprenticeships, internships, and to community. So those were the three big ones, and it was exciting because it's something new and we know that there is a need. Post-secondary options have all different options for learners, so I think it's something that would be valuable within our district as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a good session. I think there was a good cross-section of people, all experienced in education, some with McKinley. I couldn't agree more that we need to really tighten up the sort of the self-definition of the program. I was on the board there for about 10 years, and it was pretty ambiguous as to what was happening, other than we were kind of trying to keep kids off the street and still in school, and there was some success of that. But I think now we're at a point where the next meeting will begin to kind of gel, a descriptive identity of the school and the goals and the means of reaching the goals, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that I've been made aware of, however, is that there seems to not be a full commitment to the continuation of McKinley on the part of the district, on the part of the board, and some of the people who work there are feeling that they would like this board to make a commitment to them as it's made a commitment to has success for all. And I think that after the next meeting, I'd like to bring a motion to the board to continue the McKinley Academy into the future.
Where's the decision or where's the discussion on charter regular?
That will be, I would say, think you guys should probably educate yourself on that. That's not anything we're even thinking about now. We're looking at where are the gaps and what do we need, because we have stuff for the non-attenders, we have stuff for higher achieving students, but we have a huge population in the middle that could teeter either way that we're missing right now. So yeah, on the 15th, we'll have some solid ideas and what it'll come up with. Do we need a charter, or does all dead education, they kind of provide the same thing? So it'll be
what Stangl does.
yeah.
That's where it is. That's what I call it. But that is so important to the district and to a group of students who need alternative learning. And we just have to get it right, whether or not it would be better as a charter school or just another school within the district. So that'd be nice to get some information on the difference between that and talk to somebody who knows that, so we know.
It would be nice to be more cohesive, even with Lincoln, with the credits transferring, and right now it doesn't feel part of the district for the programs. So to be more cohesive, Stangl is confusing because it's actually a lot of programs. And McKinley is the charter, but there's programs always there, and it's
one name.
One name would be nice.
Stangl.
Yeah.
Can I add something on the charter piece?
that's not a decision that you have to make right away, because even if you make a decision today, you can't implement it for a year and a half, according to the contract that's in place now. So I think the best opportunity is to move forward to define what is needed, and then a charter can operate either way. You can have a charter operate a typical high school that just has, like a different approach to programming, as long as you have the same graduation requirements and they follow the same board policies. So those are really going to be the things that you're going to take a look at. You could even pare back some of the graduation requirements, but to do that, you still have to follow state standards. You could take away the very things that most children who go to an alternative program thrive in. That would be the electives. That's really the only paring back of graduation requirements that you can do. I don't know that that's going to be a benefit, but once it's established what the needs are and how we're going to roll that out and what curriculum is going to be used and what delivery method is going to be used, that's when the conversations start up. Do you want it to remain a charter? Does it need to remain a charter? Or are you wanting to give the charter notice? But that's not for a while.
So when you say that, can the current charter be extended to
Yes.
cover that time period?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So it wouldn't be stop and then come back?
You wouldn't
Okay.
want to do that.
Okay, good.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate it. Thank you for the update. Okay, Angela, budget update.
Yes, matched a bunch of stuff in the board book. And I just want to have a forum to provide an update to the board throughout the budget process on a more regular basis this year. We're really at the point where we're going to start working on budgets at the building level. And part of the information I included in the memo was the fact that over the last 5-6 years, the district has changed quite a bit. If you think between junior high model, middle school, pandemic, lots of changes in leadership at the building level, and just my own reflection and observation of how the process has worked. We're just going to work towards building more detail at the building level and getting staff more engaged in the budget process. So reach out to some other districts to get some models for ways to provide tools and examples for our staff, especially at the secondary level. Tomorrow I'll be working with possibly with Washington staff, or just have reached out to the principals. Gotta confirm that yet, but just made myself available to help as we start building budget at all levels and at the elementaries as well. So, and of course, through the different programs. So often what would happen during the budget process is we'd hand budget leaders a spreadsheet, and it'd have past amounts that they spent, and we'd often suggest like kind of the same numbers, and sometimes they'd sign it and hand it right back to us. And that was the literal engagement in the budget process. And so the sort of the models that we're going to use show a little bit more detail, and that will help us, just help staff understand more of what their expenses are on a regular basis, sort of your reoccurring expenses, develop wish list items, and that will help our building leaders. It'll help staff just to be more involved in that. I also prepared just for the principals, like trends over several years, so they can see where money was spent in the different areas. So if you're a reading teacher at Washington, how much was spent in that area over the years, at Lincoln, at Wilson, at all the levels. So just trying to work and support with more information along those lines. Skyward allows all teachers right now that have the ability to make purchases can see budget information in this system. We have to provide more support to give them the ability to see those balances and see the information, because they do have access to it right now. It's just part of an implementation. It takes time to get to that point, and we're at the point now where we can open that up. So staff members that advise clubs, athletics, along with their content area, will be able to see that information in Skyward. So that's kind of our next step in the process. So just really excited to be there and get them involved in that, and just work through the budget process overall. So Also in the update included a couple of different scenarios, and I'll do this as I provide updates. There's a lot of talk at the state level about the decoupling of vouchers from the revenue limit formula. So that's a really, really heated discussion right now.
Could you explain that? I mean, I was pretty interested in that.
Yeah, so schools have wanted vouchers out of the revenue limit since they came into the revenue limit formula. And it's kind of a careful what you wish for type of scenario. So right now we take in revenue from taxpayers, like 3.8 million, and we pay it out. But we receive aid on that. So right now, between $200,000 to $500,000, I have it in some of the scenarios here, we receive more aid in total on that. If we would lose the aid from vouchers, we would lose aid that we receive off of them as well. So it's not a break even on that. So what the state's working to do is try to develop a system where to kind of close the gap and help if they would take it off of the revenue limit formula. So there's been a lot of talk about that. I have some PowerPoint slides I can share with the Board of Education and just send it out to the district in general. But just as you're listening to that, keep an eye out for that. It'd be really nice to have them off the revenue limit, but how they help us navigate it, we don't want to be in a spot where we have to use. I mean, many districts, if they, depending upon how they handle it, would have to go out for operational referendum.
Wow.
And we have some give because we have our operational referendum in place and we're not levying the full amount, but still it's kind of we'd be losing money essentially. Yes.
Did I hear you right that the district actually makes money off that? Or did I not hear that right?
That's what you heard.
When you look at the aid amount, yes, in a sense we do. So it's not a complete, if they would totally go away, we would have a significant drop in aid and the amount that we get in aid would go down. It surpasses the amount that we pay out taken from the revenue and expenditure overall.
So it's a net gain is what you're saying?
Correct, yes.
The state rewards us for spending.
Mm-hmm. It's on your prior year expenditures. So while we've wanted them out of the revenue limit formula, and depending upon how it's handled, it could still put us in the same spot where we wouldn't lose aid. But it's just gonna be interesting to see how the state handles that. So just very preliminary talks about it, and nothing is anywhere close to passing yet. So vouchers was just one thing. I provided a couple of scenarios that just show like a balanced budget with a mill rate adjustment. I updated the enrollment counts from the January counts. And so I'll just keep updating these types of things. There's a list of all the budget projection items in there. There's a lot of moving internal parts. We have transportation contract. We have CPI for teachers that the board needs to take up. There are a lot of unofficial things that are in the projections at this point. So depending upon where that lands, that'll impact things. And so I just wanted to provide that as an update. It could be that we end up staying with a very steady mill rate that doesn't, even with a 4% equalized value increase, keeps us either at a lower mill rate for next year or same, or we could always choose to levy additional and just have a slight increase in the mill rate.
You did 4.5 in terms of compensation raises for staff. Is that?
4.12, because that's.
4.2, okay.
Correct. And
where did that come from actually?
the WERC CPI has been released for July 1.
Okay.
And so but that again, the board needs to officially consider that, and we'll be bringing that in March here.
Okay.
In the model, it's at 6% because if we do steps and other increases, that has to sort of make up that gap. So it's all a projection and all included just to help us consider these things when we need to have these discussions.
I really like the involvement of staff in the process. I hope that, we get to spend, people ask me about the budget and I'll say, well, some of this stuff I don't even know where to look for it. So I guess I'd like to be better informed on that. You know, maybe I won't even be here next time, but,
And the staff survey and the administrator survey will go flip at the end of the week, and all of the budget building worksheets. And I mean, I don't mind putting together sessions to talk about things like how we project on benefits and salaries. And, you know, I love to talk about the budget. Lots of people don't like to hear me talk about the budget. I don't take offense to it. It's a, you know, I work in it all the time, but some people are very interested and want to know more, and I'm happy to share that and provide those opportunities for those who do want to learn more. So,
okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Angela? Okay, thanks, Angela. Okay, and then we go back, we're gonna go down to new business, the read through of our policies. I think that's where we're at here. Got everything.
Is this the introduction or the first read?
This is the first read.
Okay.
All right, so the first item is 3120. This is employment of professional staff. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve the changes to that policy. Okay. Motion by Matthew Spalding, second by Matthew Phipps. Any discussion or changes on that one? Again, this is policy 3120. Chris?
I can't get this to come up on my machine. I don't know why. But my recollection is this policy talks about the fact that if they, I believe the language is if they lie materially on an application, it's grounds for dismissal. Is this that one?
Yes.
Yes. And is that the language, if they lie materially?
I don't remember the language.
Because I highlighted it on mine, and that may be how I dunked it up so it won't come up again now. Because I tried to highlight what I
I
wanted
think
to
that's what
talk
you're
about.
talking about, Chris, right here. Any professional staff member's intentional misstatement of fact material to his or her qualifications of employment or the determination of salary shall be considered by the board to constitute grounds for dismissal.
Yeah, read it one more time.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Any professional staff member's intentional misstatement of fact material to his or her qualifications for employment or the determination of salary shall be considered by the board to constitute grounds for dismissal.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Because I would stop it at any misstatement. You know, there's these qualifiers on it, if there are misstatements about certain things. The world I came from, if you lied to get a job and you were found to have lied, it's grounds for dismissal. Now, people can make mistakes, and it's very different. And obviously, there's a process to see it through, but I would just strike the qualifiers after, because I think if they do it at all, it's something that could be grounds for dismissal. It doesn't necessarily say they will be, it says could be.
They would have to determine the intentional portion of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with what you said there.
And I wish I could give you the exact words, but again, that's what I get for highlighting it in green. It worked the last time I did it.
Does anybody have an issue with striking the qualifiers there?
When you say you're striking the qualifiers, you're striking the qualifiers.
It would
determination of salary, that part of it, correct?
It would read any professional staff members intentional misstatement of fact material.
No.
Or just misstatement.
Just misstatement to his or her qualifications for employment. So getting rid of the fact material portion.
Getting rid of the determination of salary shall constitute grounds for dismissal. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, that works.
Yeah.
So we would only be striking of fact material.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
Sure. Yeah, that's what he said.
Well, I'm still hoping that somebody can help me.
Here.
This isn't working.
Angela's trying to fix it for me after I broke it. I felt
Is there some reason why we didn't go over policy 2260 and 2266?
Yeah, those are tabled.
It was,
Yeah, those have been tabled until,
or
until after our,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I would have it read, any professional staff member's intentional misstatement shall be considered by this board to constitute grounds for dismissal. So that whole section between there.
right, so it's not about qualifications, it's not about
Yeah.
salary, it's,
Yeah.
it's any misstatement that you would make.
Thank you.
Is this regarding to being hired though, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Who made the motion?
I think Chris.
You motion to amend it, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Right,
Do you see anything?
I'm good with that.
Are you good with that?
any further discussion at all? Okay, all those in favor of having that go to the second reading signify by saying aye.
The amendment, he's trying to make an amendment.
Oh, sorry.
Remove.
No, you did.
Yeah, I did.
That was the
You
motion.
said to move it to second reading. We have to make a motion and a second and pass the change, then we have to push it to second reading.
Is that how it goes, Chris? You're an expert at this.
Well, you can move to amend it and send it.
But I didn't hear
the same.
Yeah, right.
We're doing.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what.
you can say accepted as amended.
Accepted as
There you
amended.
go.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next item is job descriptions, policy 3120.01. And I'd be looking for a motion and a second to approve that or amend or whatever anyone would like to do.
I'll second.
Motion by Phipps, seconded by Spalding. Any discussion on the job descriptions policy? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, and the next one is policy 3120.04. This is employment of substitutes. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve that policy for this first reading.
Motion.
Motion by Tony,
Second.
second by Phipps. Okay, any discussion? Yes, Chris?
I still hold out hope that someday the legislature will let school board members serve as substitutes, so I will abstain. Someday.
All right.
Drive a bus though.
Oh, yeah, you could.
Yeah, you could drive the bus, yes.
That I am not hoping to do.
Okay, any other discussion about that? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, and our next policy is 5330, administration of medication / emergency care. And I look for a motion and a second.
A motion.
Okay, motion by Spalding, seconded by Chris. Okay, any discussion on that policy? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, Matt? Phipps?
Did you want to put in on the discussion on that?
No.
Okay.
Okay, then we have policy 5340, this is student accidents, illness, concussion, and sudden cardiac arrest. I'd look for a motion and a second to approve. Chris?
Second.
Second by Matthew Phipps. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Then we have policy 5341. This is emergency medical authorization. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
So moved by Chris. Oh, second, so moved by Biff, seconded by Chris Abel. Any discussion about that policy? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then policy 6108, this is authorization to make electronic fund transfers. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve. So moved by Spalding, seconded,
I'll say.
second by Chris. Any discussion on that document? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? All right, then we have policy 6110, this is federal funds. And I'd look for a motion and a second to approve. So moved by Biff. Second? By Chris, okay. Any discussion about 6110? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And the last one we have on here is policy 6116, time and effort reporting. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve. Say, Chris?
Second.
Seconded by Phipps. Okay, or any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. All right, and so then there's introduction to the next policy. We'll be looking at the interscholastic athletics, recording of IEP meetings, homeless students, withdrawal from school, and reporting student progress. So we'll take those up as first reading next time.
You see that first policy's numbers are transposed, it should be 2431. The interscholastic athletics should be 2431.
Oh, okay. You got that, Lori?
I'll make that note.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't really have any remarks, except that on Thursday, I know some people are going to the conference, the law conference in Appleton, so that's still something if people wanted to do that. Other than that, anything else, any other announcements anyone has for the good of the order?
Registration, did we cover it?
We covered that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep. Okay, so future meeting dates, March 6, 2024, we're going to do the Board of Education Professional Development session with the attorney. We have gotten some questions submitted from the board as well as the community. Still get those in if that's.
We'll hold it open for tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll hold it open. Have that if anybody wants to add some. And then because spring break is our normal meeting time, we are proposing the special meeting in March to be on the 21st of 2024, obviously. And that would be when the CISA 10 would come and they would talk about our facilities assessment.
And I would propose that we try to limit it to that, to the extent that we can.
As an agenda item.
Plenty of time to.
Yeah, I can do that.
Great, does that work for everybody? Okay, so March 21st, 6 o'clock, that'll be our special meeting and we'll talk about the facilities plan. Okay, that is the end of our agenda unless anyone can see that I missed something because I know we bounced around a lot.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Spalding. Second by Tony. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right. Meeting adjourned.